Chapter 237. Yang Feng was slightly taken aback. He didn't expect the mechanical black dragon to ask him for a name. Yang Feng thought for a while, and then said unhurriedly, "Your name is Aesop." The mechanical black dragon grinned, and its voice revealed indescribable carefreeness. "Yes, Master, from today on, I am Aesop." Yang Feng asked curiously, "What do you need now, magic stones, flesh and blood of life forms, or high-energy crystals?" Prior to this, Yang Feng had been providing the mechanical black dragon Aesop with high-energy crystals. But now, thanks to the strange power of the Soul Stone, the mechanical black dragon had unexpectedly turned into a half-mechanical, half-flesh and blood life form. Yang Feng didn't have the experience of raising this kind of black dragon. Aesop said, "Anything is fine. I can eat anything now. Of course, I can also eat nothing. Now, I can absorb the free energy in space to survive. Unless my energy is constantly extracted, or I am sealed in a place without spatial energy, then I will need to replenish my energy. Because of the divinity of blood energy, if I absorb enough blood of experts, I can continue to evolve. Of course, if I want to continue to evolve, then I can only absorb the blood of demigods or gods." Kindred were a race that relied on absorbing the blood of experts to evolve. After they couldn't absorb the blood of experts, they had no choice but to go into hibernation as a means to upgrade themselves. In the Tyrannid subcontinent, kindred were hunted like dogs by human warlocks, yet they could still survive and accumulate enough power to ascend to godhood. The strength of kindred was evident. But the Zhangji Plains human warlocks were too powerful, which was why the Zhangji Plains kindred couldn't withstand a single blow. Yang Feng looked at Aesop and the corners of his mouth rose slightly, revealing a trace of joy. "With Aesop, a divine life form with demigod battle prowess, I'm one step closer to my goal of slaying a demigod rank existence." Aesop's evolution into a demigod rank existence gave Yang Feng one more trump card. Even if he encountered a demigod rank expert, he could still choose to escape even if he wasn't a match for them. Yang Feng let Aesop move about freely, while he returned to the Guando city and continued to study the knowledge needed to promote to a level 3 warlock from a level 2 warlock. 1 month later. Inside the Imperial Study Room of Glory. Angurios I raised his head from the countless memorials and stretched. Suddenly, he asked a foxman guard beside him, "How many days has it been since the Thunderclaw Martial Saint and the others set off?" The foxman race guard said respectfully, "Your Majesty, the Thunderclaw Martial Saint and the other two have already set off for 43 days. Angurios I's face was gloomy as he said in a low voice, "It seems that they have met with misfortune." The foxman guard didn't dare to say anything and lowered his head. Accompanying a king was like accompanying a tiger. Although Angurios I was a rare wise king in the Beastman Empire, he also had times when he was furious. Angurios the First let out a long sigh and said indifferently, "We still underestimated the enemy too much. Pass down my order, summon Faulkner." "Yes, Your Majesty." That foxman race guard immediately accepted the order and retreated. 2 hours later, Faulkner stepped into the imperial study. Faulkner gave a respectful salute that no one could find fault with and said, "Greetings, Your Majesty." Angurios I said faintly, "Thunderclaw and the other two have been to the Red Earth Wasteland for 43 days. Faulkner smiled bitterly in his heart. After weighing the pros and cons for a while, he comforted, "Your Majesty, the Thunderclaw Martial Saint and the others might have been delayed by something, so they didn't have time to return." Angurios' eyes gaze congealed and pierced Faulkner like 2 sharp knives, and he said expressionlessly, "Prime Minister, do you really think so?" Faulkner broke out in a cold sweat. After a moment of silence, he said unhurriedly, "Your Majesty, this humble servant thinks that the Thunderclaw Martial Saint and the other two should have met with misfortune. Although the 3 of them are somewhat unruly, but they are still willing to do their best to complete the Empire's orders. If everything went well, they should have returned 13 days ago. For there to be no news of them for so long, and at the same time, they were either killed or captured by the Red Earth Wasteland." Angurios I nodded slightly and said, "Yes, I think so too." Faulkner, immediately send someone to investigate. I want to know the ins and outs of the half-blood beastmen as soon as possible. Yes. Your Majesty. Faulkner responded respectfully, and then took his leave. Under Angurio's Eye's order, the Beastman Empire's huge intelligence agency was mobilized, and countless spies moved towards the Red Earth wasteland. 3 months later, a huge convoy of more than 8,000 people traveled in the Red Earth wasteland. Ever since the news that there was a miracle city in the Red Earth wasteland spread, merchants from various states went to the miracle city after confirming the news. After replenishing their supplies of food and water, they went to the 4 empires to trade. With the increase of merchants, the number of bandits also increased. Although Yang Feng sent troops to wipe out a dozen bandits, cut off their heads, and planted them on both sides of the road, but he still couldn't stop the bandits that kept appearing. Forced to do so, the merchant groups could only unite and form a huge escort team. In this way, the bandits wouldn't dare to attack such an escort team. Here we are, the Miracle City. But compared to the last time I came, the Miracle City looks more prosperous and beautiful. Jim rode to the front of the caravan, looked into the distance, and revealed a smile. At this time, purification trees were planted everywhere outside the Miracle City. Due to the purification of the purification trees, large tracts of black land appeared. An extremely spacious cement road that could accommodate 10 carriages side by side extended from the Miracle City to the outside, making the merchants who suffered from the bumpy road feel very gratified. Walking on such a cement road was a kind of enjoyment. On both sides of the cement road, a large number of purification trees were planted. Behind the purification trees, there were plots of farmland, in which breadfruit trees and various edible foods that could grow at the same time as breadfruit trees were planted. Flowers bloomed one after another. They were bright purple and red, extremely beautiful. Furthermore, they exuded bursts of fragrance, making people feel refreshed and relaxed. How beautiful! So this is the Miracle City established by Master Ian. It's really beautiful. When the merchants who came to the Miracle City for the first time saw the neat streets and beautiful scenery, they couldn't help but exclaim in admiration. In the middle of the caravan, a luxurious carriage with dozens of night-rank guards standing next to it suddenly opened, and a handsome man with a golden ponytail and a long sword at his waist alighted from the carriage. He was so handsome that people couldn't take their eyes off him. The handsome man with blonde hair and blue eyes walked down from the carriage and looked at the Miracle City from afar. The corners of his mouth rose slightly, revealing a trace of a smile. This is the Miracle City that Master Ian built? Not bad, this city is more to my liking. After a slight pause, the huge caravan continued forward and entered the Miracle City. As soon as Jim entered the Miracle City, he couldn't believe his eyes. At this time, in the Miracle City, houses of various sizes had been built, each house at least 3 stories high, and the streets were bustling with people. It was far from being as desolate as it was when Jim first came here, with only slaves. Along the way, the extremely handsome man looked around and revealed a smile. Interesting. It seems that Master Ian of the Miracle City is really a talent. As soon as the huge caravan entered the Miracle City, it dispersed. Jim came to the handsome man and asked respectfully, "Sir Edith, can we go to the city master's mansion now?" Edith said faintly, "I still want to stroll around, let's talk about it later." Jim responded and quickly retreated to the side. "Yes, sir." When Edith arrived at the center of the Miracle City, he looked at the lake from afar and exclaimed sincerely, "A lake. To be able to create such a lake in the Red Earth wasteland, he really has some skill." After strolling around the Miracle City, Edith was satisfied. He followed Jim to the city master's mansion. The city master's mansion, inside the conference hall. "Jim, my good friend, what surprise did you bring me this time?" As soon as Yang Feng arrived at the conference hall, he greeted Jim enthusiastically. In the past few months, although Jim didn't come in person, but he still worked very hard to organize the supply of more than 5,000 slaves for Yang Feng's Miracle City. Yang Feng had to give such a big merchant some face. Jim smiled bitterly and made the introductions. "Master Ian, let me introduce you. This is Sir Edith, the sole heir of the Duke of Iser." He is an emissary sent by the Morance Empire to discuss something with you. Whether it was the Duke of Iser or the Morance Empire's imperial court, they weren't existences that Jim, the manager of the Ridgex City branch of the Rose Merchant Group, could contend against. In the end, it still came. Yang Feng's heart sank slightly and he sighed. The Red Earth Wasteland was a place with a rather superior geographical location and a vast area. It had always been coveted. However, it had always been difficult to develop, which was why it was abandoned by the four empires. But now, Yang Feng built a miracle city in the Red Earth Wasteland, attracting most of the merchants of the Morance Empire and the Titan Empire, turning the miracle city into a big fat cake. It would be strange if the two empires didn't react. Chapter 238. Yang Feng said faintly, "So it's an emissary of the Morance Empire. What brings you to my miracle city?" Edith carefully sized up Yang Feng for a while, then said with a faint smile, "Master Ian, the Red Earth Wasteland has always been the territory of the Morance Empire. You established this city on the territory of the Morance Empire, so you must return it to the Morance Empire. Of course, in order to commend your contribution in establishing a city on the Red Earth Wasteland, the Empire will give you a hereditary aristocratic title of a chevalier, grant you a chevalier, and make you a hereditary aristocrat of the Morance Empire." Yang Feng sneered and said frigidly, "A trifling chevalier wants to swallow my miracle city. The Morance Empire really has a big appetite." Under Yang Feng's continuous management, the miracle city had broken away from desertification and become a beautiful and rich city. The number of slaves in the city was as high as tens of thousands. Yang Feng spent a huge price to buy them from many slave merchants. A trifling chevalier and an aristocratic title of the Morance Empire weren't even 1/10,000th of the value of the miracle city. In fact, you have no choice. The Morance Empire has millions of regular troops and hundreds of main divisions. There are tens of thousands of firmament knights and over 1,000 star knights. There are more than 300 great wizards and over 30 arch-wizards serving the Morance Empire. How much power does the miracle city have? According to the intelligence, there are only 2,000 human warriors and 800 half-blood beastman warriors in the miracle city. Among the 2,800 warriors, only the 200 imperial guards of the Amon Principality can be considered elites. Only the core of the Amon Principality's 200 imperial guards can be regarded as elites, the rest are just a motley crew. Master Ian, you're a trifling great wizard. However, do you, a trifling great wizard, want to contend against the 300 great wizards and 30 arch-wizards of the Morance Empire? Now, join the Morance Empire, serve the Empire, and become a respectable aristocrat, and a hereditary great wizard is your best option. Otherwise, once the army of the Morance Empire arrives, you'll only have two choices: flee for your life or become a prisoner." Edith smiled gracefully and threatened Yang Feng flatly. The powerful Morance Empire was Edith's backer. There were millions of regular troops, tens of thousands of firmament knights, over 1,000 star knights, 300 great wizards, and over 30 arch-wizards. This was the underlying strength of the Morance Empire. Additionally, what Edith didn't say was that there were many powerhouses in the temples of the Morance Empire, both large and small. If the guardian knights, archbishops, cardinals, and popes were included, then the number of experts would be more than double. Besides, there were countless greater aristocrats in the Morance Empire, who had their own private armies and supported numerous experts. If the forces of the greater aristocrats were counted in the Morance Empire, then the Morance Empire would only be stronger. The Morance Empire has millions of regular troops and hundreds of main divisions. There were tens of thousands of heavenly knights and thousands of star knights. There were more than 300 great wizards and more than 30 arch-wizards serving the Morance Empire. However, how many of them could really be mobilized to the Red Earth Wasteland? The Morance Empire has a vast territory. The main divisions are scattered all over the place to deter other races and the small fries. I'm afraid that there are less than 30,000 mobile troops that can be mobilized here. As for wizards, I'm from the Temple of the Weave Goddess. I think that legend rank wizards shouldn't make a move against me. Most of the other wizards aren't willing to fight me either. On the Tsangji Plain, a starry sky warlock could even rely on a powerful warlock tower to suppress a god. On the Feisua Plain, magic towers didn't have such formidable power. Yang Feng said with a faint smile, "Thank you, but I don't think there will be such a day." At this moment, Lena came in. When she saw Edith, she was slightly taken aback. It was the first time she had seen such a handsome, almost flawless man. Lena came to Yang Feng's side and said in a low voice, "Master, an emissary of the Titan Empire has come to see you." Yang Feng raised his eyebrows slightly and said with a faint smile, "An emissary of the Titan Empire has also come? Then let him come see me." Lena retreated respectfully. "Yes, Master." Not long after, a peerless beauty wearing a silver dress walked in with a smile. She had a head of dazzling golden hair, a tall figure, skin as white as jade, exquisite facial features, and a pair of beautiful eyes that seemed to be able to speak, as if she had walked out of a painting. As soon as the peerlessly beautiful girl in the silver dress walked into the room, the entire room seemed to become brighter, and all eyes were focused on her. "Edith, so you're the emissary of the Morince Empire. That's great, I really want to see you." When the peerless beauty dressed in a silver dress saw Edith, her beautiful eyes blossomed with an enigmatic light, and she threw herself into Edith's arms and smiled sweetly, without the slightest scruple about the people present. "Faldina, my sweetheart, my darling. To be able to meet you here is really the power of fate. It's fate that brought us together again. I will never let go of my hands and let you leave me again." While uttering pleasant words of love, Edith kissed the face of the peerless beauty dressed in a silver dress deeply. Yang Feng coughed lightly and said faintly, "Miss Faldina, may I ask what brought you here this time?" Faldina played it down and said carelessly, "It's nothing. It's just that the Titan Empire wants you, Ian, to hand over the Miracle City. This is the territory of the Miracle City. Since you're building a city here, it'll belong to the Titan Empire. If you hand it over, you can live. If you don't, you will die. I've told you what I want to say. Whatever decision you want to make, it's up to you." Yang Feng secretly sighed, this is the arrogance of a great state. The Titan Empire was even more overbearing than the Morince Empire. Without giving Yang Feng any benefits, it wanted to annex the Miracle City. In the end, it was still because Yang Feng was too weak and his background was too weak. Whether it was the Titan Empire or the Morince Empire, they didn't care about Yang Feng's small force. Edith put his arm around Faldina and said with a chuckle, "It seems that the Morince Empire's offer is higher. Master Ian, won't you consider it?" Yang Feng said without batting an eyelid, "Please let me think about it for a few more months." Edith slightly shook his head and smiled. "Are you trying to stall for time?" It was useless. "If you don't reply within 10 days, I'll leave. The hunting Fang Corps of the Morince Empire will enter the Red Earth Wasteland and attack your Miracle City." Yang Feng sighed slightly and said, "In this case, regrettably, it seems that the hunting Fang Corps of the Morince Empire will soon disappear from your empire." Edith said with a chuckle, "Then I'll wait and see how you make the hunting Fang Corps disappear." Chapter 239. After receiving the ultimatum from the Morince Empire, Yang Feng immediately carried out a general mobilization of troops in the Miracle City. In the Miracle City, there were 2,800 standing troops. Among them, the most elite troops were the 1,000 human cavalrymen formed from the Amon Principality's royal guards. Yang Feng imparted the martial skill Star Chi, which could be practiced until the legend rank, to the 2,800 warriors without being stingy. The strength of the 2,800 warriors who had cultivated the star energy had increased tremendously. However, the number of powerhouses who truly broke through to the knight rank was less than 300. In addition to the 2,800 warriors, Yang Feng also recruited 10,000 slave warriors, who were responsible for some auxiliary work, completely liberating the 2,800 warriors. The Morince Empire claimed to have millions of regular troops, but in fact, auxiliary troops accounted for at least half of them. The true warriors were only about 2 million. The 2 million warriors were to be distributed everywhere to deter the greater aristocrats. The army that could be used in a certain aspect was only tens of thousands of warriors. The preparations are done. Now it's time to take care of the wizards of the Hunting Fong Corps. After Yang Feng finished his preparations for war, he stood atop the city wall of the Miracle City, took a deep look in the direction of the Morin's Empire, and then blurred into motion and disappeared. The Red Earth City was located at the junction of the Morin's Empire and the Red Earth Wasteland. It was a city established by the Morin's Empire to defend against the goblin bandits, bugbears, ogres, and other bandits that came out of the Red Earth Wasteland. Originally, there were only 3,000 troops garrisoned in the city. But now, it had become a huge fortress with 20,000 warriors and 40,000 auxiliary troops. Because of the 60,000 human warriors garrisoned in the city, the Red Earth City became bustling almost overnight. Countless merchants entered the Red Earth City to sell their goods to the warriors. At the same time, many prostitutes gathered here to do business with the warriors. As night fell, darkness enveloped the land. In the Red Earth City, the brothels were brightly lit and bustling with people coming and going. Many high-ranking officers of the Hunting Fong Corps began to linger in the brothels and indulge in debauchery. In the Red Earth Wasteland's Miracle City, there were only 2,800 warriors and only one great wizard. The Hunting Fong Legion had more than 20,000 regular soldiers, 10 great mages, and even a magic shooter. With such a powerful legion attacking Miracle City, it was impossible for them to fail. My Miracle City is really being looked down upon by others. But, this is also good. The Red Earth City, in a hotel room, Yang Feng leaned against the window, looked at the bustling brothel street and revealed a faint smile. Under the cover of darkness, no one noticed that mechanical ants easily climbed into the logistics office of the Hunting Fong Corps, bit through the wooden barrels filled with water, and climbed in directly. The corners of Yang Feng's mouth rose slightly. The defense is really lax. Unfortunately, such a move can't be used casually. Otherwise, once someone sees through me, I'll have one less trump card. Poisoning couldn't be used frequently. Otherwise, once it was seen through, it would be very easy to defend against it. As long as a few wizards were sent to guard the rations and water and set up layers upon layers of defensive magic arrays, the rations and water could be completely defended. After all the preparations were completed, Yang Feng looked deeply in the direction of the Morin's Empire for a while, and a chill flashed past the abyss of his eyes. 10 days passed in a flash. Without receiving a reply from Yang Feng, the Hunting Fong Corps stationed in the Red Earth City brazenly set out and advanced into the Red Earth Wasteland. Numerous merchants with large and small convoys followed along to supply the army with rations and water. In the Red Earth Wasteland, what was most lacking was rations and water. The amount of water and food consumed by tens of thousands of people in the Red Earth Wasteland every day was astronomical. After the Hunting Fong Corps marched in the Red Earth Wasteland for 15 days, they finally saw the Miracle City hidden in the depths of the Red Earth Wasteland. The climate in the Red Earth Wasteland is really dry. My skin is dry from the sun, it's really uncomfortable. Surrounded by many high-ranking officers of the Hunting Fong Corps, a handsome young man with rosy lips, white teeth, and more enchanting than a woman, dressed in the uniform of an imperial major general, looked at his hands and complained. The many high-ranking officers of the Hunting Fong Corps looked at the man who was more beautiful than a woman, and disgust streaked past the abyss of their eyes. The man who was more beautiful than a woman was called Amadeo. He was the new commander of the Hunting Fong Corps and the most favored man of the Emperor of the Morin's Empire. This time, His Majesty the Emperor specially appointed his favorite man as the commander of the Hunting Fong Legion. He wanted Amadeo to make a great contribution, so that he could legitimately promote this beautiful man. Amadeo wiped his lips with a moist white towel, making his lips moist and beautiful, and ordered gracefully, "Fredo, I'll give you 3 days. If you don't capture the city within 3 days, then come see me with your head." Fredo was the previous commander of the Hunting Fong Corps. Because of a small mistake, he was demoted by the Emperor to deputy commander, responsible for assisting Amadeo. He was the true backbone of the Hunting Fong Corps. Amadeo was very cunning. He knew that he wasn't good at military affairs, let alone head-on combat. Therefore, he very cleverly handed over military command to Fredo. In this way, if Fredo won, it would be his credit, and if he lost, the blame could be shifted to Fredo. Fredo stepped forward and responded, "Yes." Fredo came to an old mage with white hair and beard, and said respectfully, "Master Pagos, I'll leave it to your group of mages to suppress Master Ian later." Master Pagos was the leader of a wizard squad that commanded 10 great wizards and 100 official wizards. He was a very powerful archwizard. The destructive power of archwizards on the battlefield was extremely terrifying. The power of the spells they cast was comparable to the power of spells cast by level 3 warlocks. On the battlefield, even level 3 warlocks could be killed by the spells of archwizards if they weren't careful. On the Fesua plane, such experts would be respected no matter where they went. Pagos said full of arrogance, "If a trifling great wizard dares to show his face, then he'll die." They left the city. They actually left the city. Do they want to throw away their lives? Suddenly, there was a commotion in the Hunting Fong Corps. The high-ranking generals of the Hunting Fong Corps were surprised to find that 1,000 cavalrymen came out of the Miracle City and formed a formation in front of the Miracle City. They slowly accelerated and launched a charge towards this side. When he saw this, Pagos sneered and said full of contempt, "A bunch of idiots. Fredo, it seems that our wizard squad doesn't need to take action." "That's right, these idiots. Our Hunting Fong Corps can easily take care of them." Fredo smiled contemptuously and ordered coldly, "Baiso, Kata, the two of you defeat him. Let these damn slaves experience the power of our Hunting Fong Corps." "Yes." 2 Sky Knight rank generals stepped forward and responded in unison. Before long, the 2 generals each led 1,000 cavalrymen and charged at the 1,000 cavalrymen commanded by Yang Feng from 2 different directions. Baiso and Kata watched as Yang Feng and the cavalrymen commanded by him got closer and closer, and their faces revealed malevolent smiles, as if they could already see Yang Feng's head being cut off. The horses they rode were first-class horses, and the equipment they wore was of excellent quality, far better than the equipment forged by ordinary principalities. Their warriors were battle-hardened regular troops that had gone through strict training. No matter how they thought about it, there was no possibility of them failing. Weakness. When the distance between the 2 sides was less than 300 meters, Yang Feng suddenly raised his sword, pointed at Baiso and Kata, and barked. The 2 Sky Knights suddenly felt a sharp pain in their abdomens, then spat out a large mouthful of blood and fell from their horses. The cavalrymen commanded by Baiso and Kata also felt a sharp pain in their abdomens. Black gas attacked their hearts, and they screamed and fell from their horses. With just one sword strike, the 2,000 cavalrymen of the Hunting Fong Corps fell to the ground like wheat being cut down, wailing mournfully. Dumbstruck, the generals of the Hunting Fong Corps couldn't believe their eyes. "What sorcery is this? Master Pagos, you have to protect me. You have to protect me well." Amadeo trembled and his eyes filled with fear when he saw this scene. He hid behind Archwizard Pagos and screamed like a woman. The generals of the Hunting Fong Corps swept Amadeo with a glance, and their eyes revealed contempt. As if assisted by the gods, Yang Feng commanded the 1,000 cavalrymen to charge straight towards the Hunting Fang's corps. Fredo mobilized troops to block in front of Yang Feng. As long as Yang Feng pointed with his sword, the troops would spit out blood and fall to the ground, unable to stop him. Pagos looked carefully for a while, then his face turned ashen and he said coldly, "This is poison. These lowly slaves are very despicable, they poisoned our warriors." Amadeo trembled and shouted with an ashen face, "Poison. Damn it, am I poisoned? Master Pagos, you have to save me. I don't want to die, I really don't want to die." Pagos silently recited an incantation and cast the spell Detect Poison, and a grey magic light enveloped the many generals of the Hunting Fong Corps. Chapter 240. Clouds of black gas appeared on the faces of the Hunting Fong Corps' high-ranking officers and wizards. Everyone was horrified when they saw this scene. "Fuck, I'm poisoned. We're poisoned. When did this happen? Damn it, when did this happen? When were we poisoned?" The high-ranking officers of the Hunting Fong Corps looked at each other, their eyes flashed with fear, and they discussed animatedly. Amadeo took out a bronze mirror, looked at it for a while, and screamed, "My face, no, don't, how did my face become like this?" Amadeo won His Majesty's favor with his peerlessly beautiful face. If his face was no longer beautiful, then His Majesty's favor would leave him. Amadeo grabbed one of Grandmaster Pagos's arms and implored loudly, "Grandmaster Pagos, save me! Save me! When I return to the imperial capital, I'll have His Majesty give you a lot of rewards. Don't panic. This poison was not an incurable poison. Before Pagos finished speaking, he vaguely felt Yang Feng look at him with an enigmatic smile. A sharp pain welled up inside Pagos, and he couldn't help but spit out a big mouthful of blood and collapse to the ground, unable to budge. Although wizards had strong spirits, but their fleshly bodies were too frail. After being poisoned by Yang Feng, as long as Yang Feng didn't give them time to cast a spell, they had no way to resist. The high-ranking officers of the Hunting Fong Corps spat out blood and collapsed to the ground. The flag representing the marshal's flag also fell to the ground with a loud rumble. The Hunting Fong Corps collapsed, and tens of thousands of warriors fled in all directions. Many warriors spat out blood and collapsed to the ground, unable to budge. 8,000 slave warriors poured out of the Miracle City and rushed towards the remnants of the Hunting Fong Corps. Although the 8,000 slave warriors weren't good at fighting head-on battles, but they were good at capturing prisoners. Except for some warriors who desperately escaped into the depths of the Red Earth wasteland, the rest of the Hunting Fong Corps warriors were captured by the slave warriors. A few hours later, Yang Feng led the 1,000 cavalrymen into the Miracle City. On both sides of the road of the Miracle City stood the slaves Yang Feng bought. Justice shall prevail. Miracle City will win. As soon as Yang Feng entered the Miracle City, he raised his sword and shouted, "Justice shall prevail. Miracle City will win. Long live Master Ian! Long live Master Ian!" Earth-shaking cheers came from the Miracle City. The slaves looked at Yang Feng with adoration in their eyes. With the strength of 1,000 cavalrymen, they directly pierced through the tens of thousands of soldiers of the Hunting Fong Legion, causing the Hunting Fong Legion to collapse. This kind of thing could only be done by legendary heroes who were blessed by the gods and possessed peerless bravery. From the fanatical cheers, Yang Feng sensed traces of faith power converging on him. It was obvious that after this battle, his reputation in Miracle City had increased by a large margin. At night, inside the prison of Miracle City. In a huge prison, there were more than 100 magicians. These 100 or so magicians were a terrifying force. Just by using magic, they could easily destroy an army of 2,000 people. Unfortunately, because they were poisoned by Yang Feng, they couldn't display any of their strength and were captured alive. Yang Feng slowly walked into the prison, followed by Babu and 10 Oxman half-blood beastman experts. When they saw Yang Feng walk in, the more than 100 wizards showed looks of hatred. Yang Feng swept the more than 100 wizards with a glance and said indifferently, "I am Master Ian, the city master of the Miracle City. I'm here to recruit you. Those who are willing to serve me, stand on the left. Those who aren't willing can stay or stand on the right." The more than 100 wizards stared at Yang Feng with ridicule in their eyes. They were noble wizards. How could they be willing to be loyal to Yang Feng, a wandering wizard with no background, an unstable foundation, and even offended the Morance Empire? Yang Feng waited for a while. When he saw that no wizard moved, he clapped his hands. Babu stepped forward, drew his sword, pointed at a wizard, and asked in a low, muffled voice, "Are you willing to serve my master?" The magician spat on the ground and said coldly and arrogantly, "Tui, a bunch of lowly slaves. Since you're unwilling, then go to hell." A cold look in his eyes, Babu stepped forward and beheaded the wizard. Blood sprayed out of the cell and sprinkled on the ground. When the more than 100 wizards saw this, they were slightly taken aback, and then their eyes surged with endless fear. They were noble wizards. No matter where they went, they would be respected by countless people. Even if they became captives, many people would entertain them with good food and drink, and wait for their master to ransom them. But now, a noble wizard was beheaded by a lowly half-blood beastman slave. This was simply inconceivable. The complexion of a wizard changed dramatically, and he roared, "Ian, are you crazy? We are noble wizards, yet you let a half-blood beastman's slave kill Camacho. If word of this gets out, there will definitely be no magicians who will come to you. All the wizards of the Fesua Plain will be your enemy." Yang Feng said lightly, "If you all die here, won't this matter not spread?" When the more than 100 wizards heard that, they felt a chill in their hearts. A wizard suddenly said loudly, "I'm willing to pay the ransom. 100,000 gold coins, no, 1,000,000 gold coins. I'm willing to pay the ransom. Please spare my life and return me my freedom." Wizards were far richer than ordinary people. But even so, 1,000,000 gold coins was not a small sum for a wizard. Generally, 1,000,000 gold coins was enough to redeem a wizard. Yang Feng shook his head somewhat regretfully, saying, "Unfortunately, I don't lack money, but I lack wizards. Since you've delivered yourself to me, then you only have two choices, death or serving me." Babu pointed at another wizard with his blade and said in a low, muffled voice, Are you willing to serve my master?" The wizard fell into a state of hesitation. Without hesitation, Babu chopped off the wizard's head with his blade. "Since you don't want to, then go to hell." Seeing the decapitated corpse of the wizards felt a chill in their hearts and were filled with fear. Babu pointed at another wizard with his blade and said in a low, muffled voice, Are you willing to serve my master?" The wizard's complexion changed greatly. He got up, stood to the left, and shouted, "I'm willing, don't kill me." Under the threat of death, the wizards hesitated, then helplessly got up and stood to the left. A dozen wizards who were unwilling to surrender were beheaded by Babu. Soon, Bags was the only one left in the prison. Pagos said solemnly, "Ian, if I'm not willing to serve you, are you going to kill me as well?" Yang Feng replied decisively, "That's right." Pagos enunciated each syllable, "We are believers of the Weave Goddess. Aren't you afraid of the wrath of the Weave Goddess for killing us like this?" Yang Feng said with a cold smile, "This is a city belonging to the goddess. You wizards dare to attack a city under the protection of the goddess. I'm already giving you face by not tying you to the stake and burning you as heretics." The wizards trembled and felt the air turn a bit colder. Being burned to death at the stake was a punishment more cruel than beheading. Pagos was choked speechless. After a long silence, he finally gave a long sigh and said, "Fine, I'm willing to serve you. Don't resist." Yang Feng flicked his finger, and syringes filled with liquid metal nano-robot elixir flew out and stabbed the arms of the wizards. The complexions of the wizards changed slightly. But after seeing the corpses, they fell silent and let the syringes stab their arms. After the liquid metal nano-robot elixir was injected into the wizards, Yang Feng snapped his fingers, and the wizards felt pain in their bodies. They opened their mouths and spat out a black liquid, which reeked of a fishy smell. After spitting out the black liquid, the wizards immediately felt their bodies become a lot more refreshed. Yang Feng said lightly, "This elixir can dispel the toxins in your body and strengthen your physique at the same time. However, if you want to betray me, then the elixir will kill you. Let me warn you, I hope that you won't do anything stupid." When the wizards heard that, their complexions suddenly changed, and they fell silent. There were endless mysteries in magic, and many elixirs had mystical abilities. It wasn't strange for an elixir that could control others to appear. Yang Feng clapped his hands. Immediately after, Lena came in with a dozen maids, saluted Yang Feng, and said, "Master, what are your orders?" Yang Feng pointed at the nearly 100 official wizards and said lightly, "Take these honorable wizards away and make arrangements." After Lena saluted Yang Feng, she turned to the wizards and said, "Yes, master." "Sir wizards, please come with me." The wizards looked at each other, sighed helplessly, got up, and followed Lena outside. Yang Feng turned and walked towards the depths of the prison, before pushing open a door. Inside the room sat a man, a very beautiful man, Amadeo. Truly a man who is more feminine than a woman. When Yang Feng entered the room and saw Amadeo, his eyes lit up slightly, and he praised him. When Amadeo saw Yang Feng, his complexion changed slightly, and he asked, "Who are you?" Yang Feng said with a smile, "I am Ian, the master of this city." "General Amadeo, are you used to living here?" As if a woman, Amadeo growled somewhat nervously, "I'm not used to it. It's too dirty and smelly here. There are no carpets, no red wine, and no incense. I don't want to stay here for a moment. Let me go, I'll pay the ransom." "Is 1,000,000 gold coins enough?" Yang Feng said straightforwardly, "Okay, I'll let you go. I hope that after you leave, you can send me the ransom of 1,000,000 gold coins." Amadeo was slightly taken aback, saying, "You're letting me go just like that?" Yang Feng replied, "That's right. There are too many bandits outside. It might not be safe for you to go alone. You can choose 10 of your most trusted guards to escort you out of here. We'll prepare enough water and food for you. I'm going to command an army to attack the Red Earth City. Please detour as much as possible." Amadeo asked suspiciously, "What are you trying to do?" Yang Feng said lightly, "The Morince Empire is powerful. The Miracle City can only win and not lose. Maybe one day, Sir Amadeo, I'll need you to put in a good word for me in front of His Majesty the Emperor." Amadeo's eyes flickered and he revealed a smile, "Okay. I still have some weight in front of His Majesty the Emperor. At that time, I'll definitely put in a good word for you." After the discussion, Yang Feng immediately released Amadeo and the dozen guards selected by Amadeo and gave Amadeo enough water and food. Clive looked at Amadeo's departing back, hesitated for a moment, and then asked Yang Feng, "Sir, there's something I don't understand. Amadeo is the commander of the hunting fawn corps that we caught with great difficulty, yet we let him go just like that. Isn't it too easy for him?" Yang Feng suddenly asked, "What do you think of Amadeo?" Clive said contemptuously, "He's a good-for-nothing. Emperor Morince was blind to let him be the commander of the legion." Yang Feng said with a faint smile, "He's not a good-for-nothing. A total of 13 men were fancied by His Majesty the Emperor along with him. In the end, he was the only one who survived. Within 5 years, the courtiers who attacked him fell one by one. Only the Prime Minister of the Morince Empire, Casimiro, was left alive. Don't you think he's amazing?" Clive suddenly inhaled a breath of cold air, his eyes filled with shock. In his eyes, Amadeo was a rabbit that sold its butt. For such a rabbit to defeat the courtiers of the Morince Empire one by one, Amadeo's ability in court struggles could be imagined. Yang Feng said meaningfully, "We can't kill such a person. We have to protect them as much as possible. The Morince Empire is a towering tree. Without these vermin, it would be difficult for us to contend against it." Clive was silent for a while before nodding firmly. Chapter 241. The Red Earth City. Ever since the main force of the hunting fawn corps left, the city lost its bustle and liveliness not long ago. However, the prostitutes and the merchants didn't leave. They were looking forward to the hunting fawn corps' triumphant return, so that they could once again make a big profit. Outside the Red Earth City, smoke and dust billowed, and a 2,000-strong cavalry galloped towards the Red Earth City like a sharp arrow. Enemy attack! Enemy attack! When a patrolling warrior saw the 2,000-strong cavalry above the Red Earth City wall, his complexion suddenly changed greatly, and he screamed. Hearing the scream, the Red Earth City suddenly fell into a panic, and teams of warriors were driven to the city wall by the high-ranking officers. Everyone was bewildered and full of fear. The hunting fawn corps dispatched the elite troops capable of fighting in the Red Earth City, leaving only 1,000 local troops to defend the city. The 1,000 local troops could barely suppress some rioters and gangsters, but they had no experience in fighting against a regular army. The goblins, bugbears, and ogres of the Red Earth Wasteland would never attack a human city protected by a city wall, as they didn't even know how to build siege equipment. When a city guard officer saw the 2,000 cavalrymen commanded by Yang Feng, he heaved a sigh of relief and said loudly, "Cavalrymen. Don't be afraid, they're cavalrymen. They can't attack the city. They should be horse bandits who had wandered over. As long as we close the city gate, there won't be any problems. Yang Feng smiled coldly, silently recited an incantation, pointed at the city gate, and conjured the level 2 spell Flame Blast. A flaming arrow flew out and blasted against the city gate. With a loud bang, the Red Earth City's city gate was torn apart and splashed in all directions. On the Feisua Plain, city gates were divided into ordinary city gates and special city gates. Ordinary city gates couldn't withstand the bombardment of level 2 spells. Of course, if it was a special city gate like the one in the Morin's Empire, then even a legend rank spell couldn't shatter it. The city guard officer was suddenly dumbfounded. Standing on the city wall, his eyes filled with fear, he said in a trembling voice, "Wizard. There are wizards among them. Breach the city. Those who surrender will not be killed, those who don't will die." Yang Feng pointed at the Red Earth City with his sword and barked. "Breach the city. Those who surrender will not be killed, those who don't will die. Breach the city. Those who surrender will not be killed, those who don't will die." Behind Yang Feng, the uniform roars of the 2,000 cavalrymen soared into the sky, frightening the Red Earth city guards. "Follow me." Yang Feng pulled the reins, barked, and took the lead to rush towards the Red Earth City. The 2,000 cavalrymen surged towards Red Soil City like a torrent. Awed by the momentum of Yang Feng and his party, the defenders atop the Red Earth City didn't react at all. They watched helplessly as Yang Feng led the 2,000 cavalrymen into the city. Once Yang Feng's 2,000 cavalrymen broke into the city, they quickly took over everything in the city. Not long after, 3,000 Miracle City infantry who had barely learned how to ride finally arrived from the rear and quickly took over the city. When the follow-up troops arrived, Yang Feng continued to command the 2,000 cavalrymen to stab straight into the hinterland of the Morin's Empire. The Hunting Fong Corps was the most powerful corps of the Morin's Empire in this region. Now that it was completely wiped out, a huge hole was torn in the Red Earth wasteland. Yang Feng led the 2,000 cavalrymen to charge through the huge hole. Within 13 days, they breached 10 cities in succession and looted a large amount of people, goods, and wealth, which were then transported to the Miracle City. The Melinsan province had a total of 44 cities. After the 10 cities were captured, nearly a quarter of the Melinsan province fell into Yang Feng's hands. The entire Morin's Empire was shaken. The governor of the Melinsan province sent 10 letters in blood in a row, asking for help from the center of the empire. The Melinsan province wasn't a border city to begin with. The strongest force in the province was the Hunting Fong Corps. Now that the Hunting Fong Corps was wiped out, the Melinsan province was very empty, with only 100,000 local troops scattered in various cities. The 100,000 local troops were specially used to maintain law and order and suppress rebellions in the Melinsan province. Their fighting strength couldn't be mentioned in the same breath as that of a field corps like the Hunting Fong Corps. Coupled with the fact that the Melinsan province had been at peace for a long time, the 100,000 local troops were completely rotten. In fact, there were less than 60,000 local troops. Besides, most of them were relatives and friends of military officers, so they had no fighting strength to speak of. Under such circumstances, the Melinsan province was like an undefended cake. With a light poke, Yang Feng poked a huge hole in it and took a big bite out of it. The only thing the governor of the Melinsan province could do was to shrink his forces and frantically recruit soldiers. He holed up in the Bar-Roman city, the capital of the Melinsan province. The Silver Sword Corps stationed in the Zero province near the Melinsan province also received a transfer order from the Morin's Empire and set off for the Melinsan province. The Hunting Fong Corps was defeated by Ian. That's amazing. Amadito is one thing, but Fredo is a battle-hardened veteran. How could he be defeated so easily? Dressed in the uniform of a major general of the Morin's Empire, a rather handsome 35 to 36-year-old Silver Sword Corps commander, Magana, muttered to himself. The Hunting Fong Corps was the strongest corps in the Melinsan province. Furthermore, the Morin's Empire had mobilized an archwizard, 10 great wizards, over 100 wizards, and over 1,000 apprentice wizards to form a huge wizard group, which was assigned to the Hunting Fong Corps. No matter how one thought about it, the Hunting Fong Corps couldn't lose to a small force like the Miracle City that was established not long ago and had less than 10,000 soldiers. A scout quickly came to report, "Sir Commander, we found the cavalry of the Miracle City." Morgana frowned and asked solemnly, "Where are they?" The scout hurriedly said, "They are about 10 kilometers southwest of us. They seem to have just looted a city and are heading towards the Anchor City with countless treasures." Morgana's gaze congealed and he said coldly, "That direction is the Rabaka City. These damn bandits must have just looted the Rabaka City. Pass down my order. Everyone, advance at once. Our target is the Anchor City. Let's go fuck those damn bandits' retreat route." The 20,000 warriors of the Silver Sword Corps suddenly sped up and moved towards the Anchor City. When they were halfway to the Anchor City, the Silver Sword Corps' main force saw the 2,000 cavalrymen dressed in gold and silver and carrying large and small bags on their backs. At the same time, the 2,000 cavalrymen were followed by thousands of horses, each of which carried a huge bag. The tremendous wealth pressured the 2,000 cavalrymen, who were originally moving as fast as the wind, to the point that they were even slower than infantrymen. When the Silver Sword Corps' main force saw the 2,000 cavalrymen commanded by Yang Feng, their eyes turned bloodshot and revealed greed. Morgana's gaze congealed, then he pointed at Yang Feng and his party with his saber and shouted, "Brothers, those are rebels. Kill them all and their wealth will be yours. I don't want a single cent. Kill! Kill! Kill them all. Kill them all and their wealth will be ours." The morale of the warriors of the Silver Sword Corps was raised to the limit. Their eyes were bloodshot, and under the command of the high-ranking officers, they rushed towards Yang Feng's 2,000 cavalrymen. "Drop the things." Yang Feng swept the warriors of the Silver Sword Corps with a glance, sneered, and ordered. The 2,000 cavalrymen tore off the bags and threw them on the ground. Countless gold, silver, and jewelry scattered on the ground from the bags, dazzling everyone. When the 2,000 cavalrymen pulled the ropes, the gold, silver, and jewelry tied to the horses also scattered on the ground, making the area look as if it was covered in gold, silver, and jewelry. "Retreat!" After discarding all the treasures, Yang Feng smiled coldly, turned around, and retreated towards the Anchor City with the 2,000 cavalrymen. "Mine! These treasures are mine! Fuck, I'll kill anyone who dares to rob me of my gold." When the warriors of the Silver Sword Corps rushed to the area full of gold, silver, and jewelry, they no longer moved. Instead, they scrambled for the jewelry, their eyes bloodshot. For the sake of the jewelry, many warriors even drew their swords. The monthly salary of the warriors of the Morince Empire was only 1 gold coin. Many of the gems on the ground could be sold for hundreds of gold coins, or even 1,000 gold coins. As long as they grabbed a gem, it was equivalent to decades or even 100 years of their salary. Naturally, it made them crazy. In particular, Morgana had promised that the wealth would belong to whoever grabbed it, which made the situation even more chaotic. No one had the will to fight, only thinking about grabbing the gold, silver, and jewelry. Even many high-ranking officers of the Silver Sword Corps joined in the scramble for the gold, silver, and jewelry. Morgana shouted anxiously, "Get up, all of you! Stop grabbing! Stop grabbing! It's very dangerous now. The cavalry of the Miracle City may be waiting for us to fall into chaos." Apart from Morgana's personal guards, no one listened to him. Everyone's attention was attracted by the gold, silver, and jewelry, and they scrambled endlessly. "It's time! Charge with me!" When Yang Feng saw the chaotic scene through the magic eyes, he sneered and urged his horse to charge towards the Silver Sword Corps. Chapter 242. When Morgana saw the dust raised by the cavalrymen, his complexion changed dramatically, and he roared wildly, "Get into formation! Get into formation! The cavalrymen of the Miracle City are here!" The warriors of the Silver Sword Corps were already in disarray, scrambling for the jewels scattered on the ground. There were only a few officers who responded to Morgana's orders, but they were unable to organize an organized army. the 2,000 cavalrymen under Yang Feng's command quickly arrived. As if a sharp sword piercing through tofu, they split the Silver Sword's warriors in two and pierced through each other. Unable to resist, the warriors of the Silver Sword Corps were chased by the 2,000 cavalrymen commanded by Yang Feng like pigs and dogs. The brave warriors of the Silver Sword Corps had just gathered, when Yang Feng and the 2,000 cavalrymen slaughtered them. The warriors of the Silver Sword Corps who were scrambling for the jewels on the ground came to their senses. By the time they came back to their senses, they were no longer surrounded by their comrades and officers, but by strangers who had been scrambling for gold, silver, and jewels with them not long ago. The warriors of the Silver Sword Corps collapsed and scrambled to escape in all directions, no longer able to organize themselves. "Damn bastard! Go to hell!" Along with a furious roar, Morgana erupted with Star Knight rank Qi, Man and Mount united, charged towards Yang Feng in a tyrannical manner, and slashed at Yang Feng with his sword with the force of a mountain. Under such circumstances, the only way to reverse the situation was to kill Yang Feng with a sword strike. Morgana was a martial arts genius of the Morince Empire. At the age of 45, he had already cultivated Star Knight rank Qi. With his frightening Star Knight rank Qi, he had slain countless powerhouses and assessed numerous rebellions. In desperate situations, Morgana relied on his peerless courage to slay the enemy's generals and reverse the situation. Step by step, he climbed to the high position of a legion commander. Yang Feng raised his eyebrows. Without dodging, he slashed at Morgana with the magic sword forged from divine blood steel. Ding! The two swords clashed, and under Morgana's horrified gaze, his sword was directly cut in two. The incomparably sharp magic sword had directly cut him in two. Virtually at the same time, Yang Feng was also sent flying by Morgana's frightening Qi, fell from his horse, rolled aside, and coughed up a large mouthful of blood. "It's a pity that your strength isn't weak. It's just that your weapon is too weak." Yang Feng glanced at Morgana and left a sentence, then jumped onto another horse and continued to chase after the Silver Sword's main force. If their weapons were equal, then Morgana would be able to send Yang Feng flying from his horse, while he himself wouldn't suffer any injuries. Now that Morgana was killed by Yang Feng, this was the huge gap between the weapons of the two sides. A good weapon was equally important to an expert. It was precisely because of this that the 5 magic swords in the Miracle City would cause countless merchants to fight over them. Yang Feng took the 2,000 cavalrymen to pursue the Silver Sword's main force for 20 kilometers. After killing about 7,000 Silver Sword warriors, he turned back and returned to the Anchor City. Of the 20,000 Silver Sword warriors, only 5,000 of them fled back to the Zero province, cutting a sorry figure. Zero province immediately gathered the 5,000 remaining soldiers of the Silver Sword to the rear. At the same time, the other main battle legion in the province, the Silver Hammer, was transferred to the border between Zero province and Molinsan province, where they would bide their time. After the Silver Sword's main force was annihilated, the governor of the Zero province didn't think about how to assist his allies, but how to protect himself. If Yang Feng's 2,000 cavalrymen killed their way into the Zero province and turned it upside down, then his position as governor would come to an end. The Anchor City. Standing atop the Anchor City's city wall, Yang Feng gazed at the depths of the Morince Empire's hinterland and gave a long sigh. "Unfortunately, I have too few troops. Otherwise, I would have already captured the Molinsan province." Yang Feng had the 2,000 cavalrymen carefully trained by Clive break through 10 cities within 13 days, and then set up an ambush to defeat the Silver Sword's main force. After days of fierce fighting, the 2,000 cavalrymen were exhausted, and Yang Feng had no choice but to stop advancing. After all, humans weren't like robots, who could fight 24/7. If Yang Feng commanded the Shizu robot army, he would have seized the opportunity when the Hunting Fong Corps was wiped out to capture the entire Molinsan province. As for the 10,000 slave warriors behind Yang Feng, their fighting strength wasn't even as good as that of the Molinsan province's local guards. Driving them to the battlefield would just be sending them to their deaths in vain. In such a large-scale war, the weakness of the Miracle City's shallow foundation was exposed. Even if the Morince Empire was defeated a dozen times, its vitality wouldn't be affected. As long as Yang Feng was defeated once, the entire Miracle City would be easily swallowed up. This was the absolute gap in the strength of both sides. Amazing, Master Ian. You're really amazing. To have defeated the Hunting Fong Corps and the Silver Sword Corps in succession, you're really an outstanding talent. Along with a chuckle, Edith slowly walked out from a corner of the Anchor City's city wall. Smiling like a flower, Faldina followed beside Edith. Every step she took was in sync with Edith's, as if she was his shadow. 3 burly warriors exuding frightening auras and armed with rapiers flanked Yang Feng, cutting off his path of retreat. Behind the 3 warriors stood 2 great wizards, who stared at Yang Feng with ice-cold expressions. Yang Feng frowned slightly and said solemnly, "How did you get in?" Yang Feng had been very cautious all his life. He had also set up many micro-monitoring devices in the Anchor City, with no blind spots. He didn't understand how Edith and them could sneak up to him. Edith said with a smile, "Master Ian, your magic ability is really strong. However, you're not the only wizard in the world. My dearest sweetheart, Faldina, is also a genius archwizard. There's no problem in deceiving the perception of a great wizard like you." Yang Feng frowned slightly, saying, "Miss Faldina, I heard that the Titan Empire and the Morance Empire are enemies. Why did you join forces with Edith to ambush me? Isn't the more damage I cause to the Morance Empire, the better it is for the Titan Empire? What you said makes sense." Faldina blinked her big beautiful eyes, and then said with a light smile, "But I love Edith. Since he wants to ambush you, I'll help him. As for the rest, I don't care." Yang Feng's thousands of excuses were blocked by Faldina. He was speechless at a woman who was blinded by love and an archwizard-ranked powerhouse to boot. Such a peerlessly beautiful girl who was dead set on love was simply a goddess in the eyes of many men. Yang Feng couldn't help but feel a trace of jealousy towards Edith. Edith said with a light smile, "Master Ian, the Hansen family is in great need of a talent like you. Please join our Hansen family. Only then will you have the space to display your outstanding abilities." Yang Feng frowned slightly and said faintly, "What if I don't join?" Still very elegant, Edith said without a trace of anger, "If you don't join, then regrettably, this will be your burial place. His Majesty has offered a sky-high bounty for your head. Even I'm tempted by such a bounty. In that case, then please go to hell with me." A cold glint flashed past Yang Feng's eyes. He operated a secret method, and countless black dragon scales suddenly covered his body. He silently recited an incantation and waved his hand, and 30 vampiric rattan seeds suddenly flew out. Under the effect of the spell, the 30 vampiric rattan seeds suddenly erupted and grew frantically into freaks with countless sharp barbs and tendrils. "Master Ian, the magic sword you made is very sharp, I like it very much." Edith smiled faintly and took a step forward. Frightening Star Knight rank chi erupted in a flash, and the magic sword strapped to his waist was unsheathed in a flash. It turned into star-like sword rays that tore apart the defenses of the 30 vampiric rattan seeds and chopped the cores of the 30 vampiric rattan seeds. When the cores of the 30 vampiric rattan seeds were broken, just like a human brain being minced, the vines withered and scattered on the ground, emitting black smoke, and gradually collapsed. "Mind Hammer." Faldina smiled sweetly, then silently recited an incantation and took out a dark green legend rank magic staff. She pointed at Yang Feng, and a white magic radiance shot towards Yang Feng. Psychic spells were the most difficult to resist, and it was very difficult for defensive spells to resist psychic spells. Only by strengthening one's willpower was the best way to resist psychic spells. When the mind hammer hit Yang Feng, his mind shook, his head felt like it was splitting, his eyes glazed over, and his body stiffened. In a flash, the 3 warriors erupted with Firmament Knight rank chi, and 3 swords slashed at Yang Feng from different directions. At the moment of imminent peril, the divinity of fear in Yang Feng's spirit sea trembled, and a demonic energy of fear covered his whole body in a flash, pulling him out of the shock of his mind. Yang Feng's eyes congealed in an instant, divine energy of fear erupted, and he issued a heaven-shaking roar. Under the eruption of divine energy of fear, everyone on the scene seemed to come to a standstill for a moment. A sword was unsheathed, and a resplendent sword ray turned into a mysterious arc that twisted around the three firmament knights. Chapter 243. The three firmament knights were instantly cut in half, and blood splattered everywhere. The two great wizards behind the three firmament knights finished casting in a split second. They pointed at Yang Feng and cast the level 1 spell Fireball, which was the fastest to cast. Two fireballs carrying extremely scorching flames slammed into Yang Feng, and the terrifying heat and flames engulfed him in an instant. Although Fireball had a simple name, but it was one of the most powerful single-target destruction level 1 spells. If a level 2 warlock didn't cast a corresponding defensive spell to resist, they would be seriously injured, or even killed. Amid the terrifying flames, a figure pierced through the flames and appeared in front of the two great wizards in an instant. With a flash of sword rays, the heads of the two great wizards flew high into the air, and a copious amount of hot blood spurted out of their chests and scattered on the ground. They couldn't believe that someone could withstand the bombardment of Fireball and still launch an attack against them. Seeing this scene, Faldina wrinkled her eyebrows slightly. With a wave of her lily-white hand, 36 rhombus magic crystals suddenly revolved around her and formed a huge magic crystal shield. At the same time, she floated into the air and floated backwards. The ground was the domain of warriors, while the sky was the domain of wizards. It was precisely because wizards had the ability to fly that they could beat up warrior experts. Their status was far above that of warriors. Magic and martial dual cultivation, Great Wizard Ian, I underestimated you. Edith took a step to the left and held his sword horizontally in front of Faldina, a dignified look in his eyes. Besieged by a Star Knight and an Archwizard, Yang Feng was still able to kill 3 Firmament Knights and 2 Great Wizards. This kind of fighting strength was simply terrifying. You dare to assassinate me? Today, this will be your burial ground. Covered in dragon scales, Yang Feng looked like a humanoid black dragon. His eyes were ice cold, and a fierce killing intent soared into the sky. He spoke frigidly. Edith pointed at Yang Feng with a magic sword forged by the Miracle City and said solemnly, Edith, a disciple of the Star Sacred Swordsman Banks, is here to experience your swordsmanship. Faldina's beautiful eyes constricted slightly, and she erupted with powerful spirit force fluctuations. With the magic staff in her hand, she could cast level 2 spells and below at any time. Then let's fight. With a roar, Yang Feng's figure shook, and he jumped off the Anchor City's city wall and fled into the city. If it was a one-on-one, then Yang Feng would still have the confidence to fight Edith. But with Edith and Faldina, even a level 3 warlock might not be their match. Yang Feng didn't have the confidence to defeat them. When Edith heard Yang Feng's bellow, his spirit congealed and the sword in his hand assumed a defensive stance. The scene of Yang Feng slaying 3 Firmament Knights and 2 wizards with a sword strike was too amazing, so he couldn't help but choose to play it safe. After all, if he and Faldina joined forces, even a great wizard who cultivated both magic and martial arts would definitely not be a match for them. Seeing Yang Feng choose to escape, Edith and Faldina were taken aback. They didn't expect that Yang Feng, who was acting like a hero a moment ago, would choose to escape. Shameless bastard! Go to hell! Faldina's pretty face changed slightly. She clenched her silver teeth and waved her lily-white hand. Ice cones, fireballs, earth thorns, wind blades, and other level 1 destructive elemental spells instantly shot towards Yang Feng. Under the bombardment of Faldina's level 1 destructive elemental spells, Yang Feng was forced to urge his life force field and brandish his sword to chop apart the destructive elemental spells. As for the spells that couldn't be chopped apart, he could only rely on the defense of the Black Dragon scales to resist them. Faldina's spirit force seemed to be endless. The densely packed level 1 spells bombarded Yang Feng. Before long, he was covered in blood and the Black Dragon scales were torn apart, dripping with blood. In addition to elemental spells, Faldina also cast various curse spells such as Splitting Headache, Weakness, and Perception Disruption on Yang Feng. Even though Yang Feng's level 2 warlock rank life force dispelled some low-level curses and weakened the power of a lot of strong curses, but he still felt dizzy from time to time, weak, and almost fell to the ground. Once Faldina acted, Yang Feng could no longer escape. He could only stand in place and desperately resist the various spells, unable to fight back. Edith's figure shook and, like a bolt of lightning, shot towards Yang Feng. Yang Feng suddenly barked, "Pagos, you're still not going to act. If I die, you'll all be buried with me." Gravity bind. Dark rays. Fear. Mind shock. Fireball. Web. In a room, more than 100 spells were suddenly cast and bombarded towards Edith in a frenzy. The more than 100 spells covered all fields of magic. Even if it was a star night, only death awaited them. Level 3 warlocks didn't dare to resist the bombardment of more than 100 spells. No! Faldina let out an incomparably mournful shriek, then watched in despair as the 100 spells completely swallowed Edith. With a flash of white light, Edith strangely escaped from the bombardment of more than 100 spells and appeared atop the city wall, his face pale and his back drenched in cold sweat. If he hadn't had a one-time life-saving magic item, he would have been blasted to pieces by the more than 100 spells. Edith watched the more than 100 wizards slowly walk out of the room with shock in his eyes. "Master Pagos, how come it's you? How come you're working for him?" Yang Feng ordered coldly, "Kill them." "Yes, sir." Pagos smiled bitterly, raised his magic staff, pointed at Edith, and silently recited the incantation of a level 3 spell. The 20 mages quickly chanted incantations and cast all kinds of powerful defensive spells on the group of mages. Offensive wizards were responsible for offense and defensive wizards were responsible for defense. Wizard squads that combined offense and defense were the most powerful fighting force of the human race. Retreat. Edith's complexion changed. His figure blurred, and he quickly fled outside the anchor city. Faldina, who was in the air, also cast all kinds of spells and turned into a stream of light that fell from the sky and escaped with Edith. For a magic shooter and a star knight to fight against a team of mages with a magic shooter was simply courting death. Yang Feng frowned slightly as he watched Edith and Faldina escape. How troublesome. It really isn't that easy to kill these top powerhouses. There were many level 4 extraordinary life form rank mechanical battle beasts in Yang Feng's dimensional crest. If he released those mechanical battle beasts, he might be able to kill Edith and Faldina. However, in that case, the Morin's Empire would once again attach more importance to Yang Feng. The next time they came to kill him, it would probably be a large group of legend rank powerhouses. Yang Feng suddenly said, "Pagos." Pagos responded, "I'm here." Yang Feng said lightly, "Since your wizard squad is here, then attack the Toes city with the second corps." The first corps was composed of 2,000 cavalrymen carefully trained by Clive. Most of the experts of the Miracle City were gathered in the first corps. The second corps was a new corps composed of 5,000 slaves. The fighting strength of the second corps was extremely low. Even though it was equipped with a large number of weapons and equipment seized from the Hunting Fong Corps, its fighting strength was still much worse than that of the local garrison forces of the Malinsan province. No matter how inferior the Second Corps was, with the support of the formidable fighting strength of the human wizard squad, there was basically no force in the Malinsan province that could contend against it. If the tactics of more than 100 official wizards led by an archwizard were proper, they might even be able to kill a legend-rank sacred swordsman. This was the terror of human wizard squads. Of course, if a legend-rank sacred swordsman closed in on them, then the wizard squad would likely be wiped out in less than a minute. Pagos hesitated for a moment before saying, "Master Ian, the strength of the Morin's Empire is beyond your imagination. It has the favor of the gods. Even if you capture the Malinsan province, you won't be able to hold it." The Morin's Empire was one of the 4 most fertile empires of the Feisua Plain, and it was supported by the Zalia divine system. In the history of the Feisua Plain, there was no lack of geniuses who established their own states and threatened the rule of the Morin's Empire. Then, divine chosen, divine descendants, and demigod rank heroes appeared in the Morin's Empire. Under the guidance of the gods, they destroyed the geniuses and the states they established. The Morince Empire and the Titan Empire were almost impossible to destroy. Pagos had no choice but to remind Yang Feng of this cruel fact. Yang Feng said with a faint smile, "It doesn't matter. Anyway, I don't intend to hold the Malinsan province. I just have to plunder the Malinsan province and sell the population to the Titan Empire, and then I can withdraw." Pagos felt a chill in his heart. Only now did he understand why Yang Feng would plunder the population of a city and transport them to the Miracle City every time he captured it. If Yang Feng did this to the Malinsan province, it would take at least 10 years to recover its vitality. It would be even more difficult for the Morince Empire to attack Yang Feng from the Malinsan province. Pagos hesitated for a moment, then gritted his teeth and said, "Sir, isn't this too cruel?" "Cruel?" Yang Feng was taken aback, and then smiled lightly and said coldly, "If I had been the one defeated in the Red Earth wasteland. Master Pagos, you should know what would have happened to the tens of thousands of people of the Miracle City, right? Why didn't you think of the word cruel at that time?" Pagos was speechless at once. If the Miracle City was defeated, everyone inside would be captured by the Hunting Fong Corps, reduced to slaves, and sold to other people. All the wealth of the Miracle City would be plundered. However, at that time, Pagos didn't regard the slaves of the Miracle City as people. He didn't even care about Master Ian, Yang Feng. When he was proud of his success, how could he take the word cruel to heart? Yang Feng said lightly, "Okay, Master Pagos. You are now a member of the Miracle City." Chapter 244. In fact, the 5,000 warriors of the Miracle City's Second Corps were slaves, and they had only been trained for a month. In terms of fighting strength, they might not be able to compare to the guards. However, they were wearing the weapons and equipment seized from the Hunting Fong Corps. From the outside, they looked very fierce and terrifying. Clive spurred his horse forward, pointed at the city wall with a sword in hand, and shouted, "I am Clive, the commander of the Second Corps of the Miracle City. Open the gate and surrender at once. Otherwise, after the city is breached, everyone in the city will be reduced to slaves." A city guard officer encouraged loudly, "Don't listen to him. This motley crew doesn't even have siege equipment. How can they capture the Toes City? This Clive is a nobody, he's not the Devil Ian. It's impossible for him to breach the Toes City. As long as we hold the Toes City, we'll enjoy endless glory and wealth in the future. Everyone will be an aristocrat." Yang Feng first destroyed the Hunting Fong Corps, and then defeated the Silver Sword Corps. He slaughtered his way into the Malinsan province and plundered countless riches. The people of the Morince Empire called him the Devil Ian, and his name struck fear in people's hearts. After hearing the city guard officer's words, the warriors regained some morale. Because the Second Corps led by Clive really didn't have any siege equipment. "Master Pagos, I'll have to trouble you." Clive returned to the Second Corps and asked Pagos very politely. On the Fesua plain, the status of wizards was extremely high. Even if Pagos was forced to surrender to Yang Feng, he didn't want to offend Pagos, who was an archwizard. Pagos nodded and slowly walked out with the more than 100 official wizards. 500 soldiers of the Second Legion stood in front of the magicians with large shields in their hands. Their only mission was to protect the wizards with their lives. Pagos silently recited an incantation, pointed at the city gate with the magic staff in his hand, and conjured the level 3 spell Advanced Fire Arrow. As if a meteor, an arrow formed from flames shot towards the city gate. Boom! Accompanied by an earth-shattering explosion, the city gate was blasted into pieces, revealing a large hole. Wizards! The city guard officer shouted in despair. Fireball! Shadow Ray! Corrosive Ray! The magicians silently chanted incantations and pointed at the city wall. Countless spells bombarded the city wall like raindrops. A burst of incomparably mournful screams came from the walls of Toes City. With just one blow, more than 100 soldiers died under the bombardment of various magic spells. Clive pointed to the city of Toes and shouted, "Charge!" Two Earth Knight level commanders immediately led 2,000 soldiers of the Second Corps towards Toes City. With the city gate broken and the wizard squad suppressing Yang Feng's side, the resistance of the Toes City was quickly suppressed. The entire Toes City fell into Yang Feng's hands. As soon as the Toes K City fell into Yang Feng's hands, Lina organized a slave transport team to loot the Toes K City in an orderly manner like worker ants, looting everything of value in the Toes K City, and then transporting everything in the direction of the Miracle City. These days, Yang Feng has obtained tens of thousands of slaves from other places through various means in order to deal with this sudden war. 10,000 slaves had already been organized into the Second and Third Corps. Another 10,000 slaves had been organized into a transport team under the command of Lina, which was responsible for transporting supplies. The entire Miracle City was mobilized. As if a clockwork war machine, it operated frantically. If it won all the time, this machine could continue to operate. But once it failed, this clockwork war machine would completely collapse. After capturing the Toes K City, the Second Corps rested for several days before setting out to attack another city, the Jia City. Without any suspense, the powerful wizard squad destroyed the resistance of the Jia City, allowing the Second Corps to occupy the city. On the other side, Yang Feng, who had rested, continued to attack the Malinsan province with the 2,000 cavalrymen of the First Corps. Wherever the cavalrymen went, one city after another fell into his hands without any room for resistance. The governor of the Malinsan province sent letters in blood to the imperial capital and the governor of the nearby Zierro province, begging for support. The governor of the Zierro province firmly implemented the principle of remaining unmoved in the face of difficulties for friendly forces. Instead of dispatching a single soldier, he constantly recruited soldiers from the province to fill the Silver Sword Corps, training them, and restoring the strength of the Silver Sword Corps. The Morince Empire didn't expect that the Silver Sword Corps would be defeated by Yang Feng. It greatly increased the importance it attached to Yang Feng, and began to mobilize the main corps of the several provinces behind the Malinsan province, and then slowly advanced towards the Malinsan province. When an army moved, it needed a lot of provisions. The Morince Empire wasn't ready to fight a war, and couldn't coordinate in such a hurry. According to the original plan of the Morince Empire, the Hunting Fong Corps was enough to take care of the Miracle City. It never thought of the possibility of failure. The stockpiling of provisions was simply insufficient. Now that Yang Feng defeated the Hunting Fong Corps and the Silver Sword Corps, the predicament of the Morince Empire's lack of preparation was exposed. The huge empire had countless provisions and elite soldiers. But because it wasn't prepared in advance, it was very difficult to mobilize provisions. Due to logistical issues, the movement speed of the main army that was transferred from the major provinces was also very slow. 10 days later, the First and Second Corps of the Miracle City finally met in the Bar-Roman city. Yang Feng urged his horse forward and looked at the Bar-Roman city from afar with a dignified look in his eyes. The Bar-Roman city's city wall was 20 meters tall and made of mysterious steel rock. It could even resist some legend rank spells. The city gate of the Bar-Roman city was made of the magic metal star magic iron and blessed by legend wizards. It could completely withstand the bombardment of legend rank spells. Inside the Bar-Roman city, there was a great temple dedicated to the sun god Dragoni. The Malinsan province was one of the main preaching places of the sun god Dragoni. The sun god Dragoni was a powerful intermediate divine power rank existence of the Xalia divine system, second only to the 9 primary gods of the Xalia divine system. His fighting strength was terrifying, and reportedly, he wasn't inferior to the primary gods of some weak divine systems. If the Sun Temple in the Bar-Roman city fully supported the governor of the Bar-Roman city in defending the city, then with Yang Feng's current strength, he might not be able to capture the Bar-Roman city. With the support of the Sun Temple's priests, then with my current strength, unless I use legend-rank mechanical battle beasts, it will be difficult to capture such a huge city. Yang Feng stared at the Bar-Roman city, his eyes flickered, and plans emerged in his mind, only to be rejected one by one. Unless he used poison or mechanical battle beasts, he had no hope of capturing the Bar-Roman city. Just the siege equipment alone was enough to stump Yang Feng. Of the two armies under Yang Feng's command, one was a cavalry legion, the other was a slave legion. Neither of the two legions had much experience in sieging a city. Basically, it was Yang Feng or the Bag's Wizard Legion who smashed the city gate with magic, and then easily broke into the city. The most desperate siege of the city had never been fought even once. Yang Feng took a deep look at the Bar Roman city, and his eyes flashed with determination. Let's test it out a bit. If it's really difficult to capture, then retreat immediately. The 2,000 cavalrymen and 5,000 slave warriors were the foundation of Yang Feng's miracle city. Without these two armies, Yang Feng's forces would be greatly weakened. If it was outside, Yang Feng was confident that he could defeat the army recruited by Governor Melanson, who was already frightened by the mere twang of a bow. But defending a city was different. In defending a city, even the newly recruited green forms would have some fighting strength. The Bar Roman city had 130,000 warriors. With so many warriors, even if the casualty ratio was 10:1, it would still be enough to exhaust Yang Feng's army. Suddenly, sounds of fighting came from the entrance of the Bar Roman city's city gate, and the gate weighing hundreds of thousands of kilograms was lowered. Above the city wall, white flags were raised. Seeing this scene, all the high-ranking officers of the miracle city, including Yang Feng, were dumbstruck, unable to believe their eyes. They suspected that they had run into a huge trap. There was a huge barrier inside the Bar Roman city, which was a powerful barrier released by the temple of the sun god Dragoni. Yang Feng didn't dare to take the risk of letting his mechanical flies fly in to investigate. Otherwise, once he was exposed, he might be hunted down by the god's true body. Clive said promptly, "My lord, this is a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity. Whether it's a trap or not, we should send people to take a look." Yang Feng's thoughts revolved lightning fast, and then he made a decision and ordered, "Elio, take 500 people to take a look. If there's no problem, send the signal at once." "Yes, my lord." Elio, who had an Earth Knight rank cultivation base and was born in the Amon Principality, immediately urged his warhorse and rushed towards the Bar Roman city with the 500 cavalrymen. Yang Feng and everyone else stared nervously at the 500 cavalrymen. They saw the 500 cavalrymen rush into the Bar Roman city. Before long, a signal flare soared into the sky. A cavalryman quickly spurred his horse back and shouted excitedly, "The city is breached. My lord, the city is breached." Yang Feng ordered promptly, "Enter the city." With that, Yang Feng led the 1,500 cavalrymen into the Bar Roman city. As soon as he entered the Bar Roman city, Yang Feng saw chaos everywhere, with cries, shouts, and screams lingering. Countless people fled in the direction of the other city gate. Chapter 245. A very capable-looking young man came up to Yang Feng and said, "Subordinate Andro greets the Lord." Yang Feng looked at the young man and said faintly, "Andro, you're Artai's man." Ever since Artais obtained the support of Yang Feng's huge sum of money, his power expanded geometrically. Yang Feng was able to be so well-informed and understand the intelligence of the Morince Empire and the Titan Empire. Without the intelligence sent by Artais, Yang Feng wouldn't have dared to rashly attack the hinterland of the Morince Empire and turn the Melanson province upside down. In war, information and intelligence were the two most important factors. Yang Feng was very glad that he didn't choose to kill Artais, but instead took him in as his subordinate. Andro said respectfully, "Yes, Lord. I'm the person in charge of the Bar Roman city arranged by Sir Artais." Yang Feng asked curiously, "What's going on? How could the Bar Roman city be seized by you so easily?" The governor of the Melanson province recruited more than 100,000 troops in the Bar Roman city. This astonishing army wasn't good in the field, but its battle prowess was considerable in defending a city. For the small army arranged by Artais to be able to seize the gate of the Bar Roman city was simply a miracle. "This is all thanks to you, sir. Sir, you've been besieging cities all over these days. Wherever you go, people are swept away. No city can withstand a single attack from you. the governor of the Malinsan province is already frightened. When he heard that you were coming, he quickly transferred his wealth and family members to the East Dantian province. He also dispatched an army to protect them. When the greater aristocrats of the Bar-Roman city saw the governor of the Malinsan province's actions, they lost their will to fight and quickly organized their men to evacuate the Bar-Roman city. Rumors were already spreading in the army, yet the governor of the Malinsan province did nothing. When you arrived in the vicinity of the Bar-Roman city today, the governor of the Malinsan province fled with 20,000 guards. When they saw the governor of the Malinsan province flee, the warriors he recruited scattered in confusion. No one was willing to defend the city. When I saw this situation, I was afraid that a long delay would bring trouble, so I led my men to seize the city gate and welcome the arrival of my lord. Andro said methodically. Yang Feng couldn't help but ask, the governor of the Malinsan province is such a waste, how did he become the governor? Andro said, the governor of the Malinsan province has a younger sister, who is the most favored concubine of the south, the emperor of the Mauryan Empire. It was the southern concubine who begged His Majesty to make her brother the governor of Malinsan province. In the Faesua Plains Mauryan Empire, every adult was allowed to marry 6 wives, 2 official wives and 4 secondary wives. As for concubines, he could marry countless of them. The Mauryan Empire had 2 empresses and 4 imperial concubines, which were the 6 most distinguished women in the imperial harem. The status of the other concubines was not as high as these 6 women. The reason for this rule was that the first emperor of the Mauryan Empire was followed by 6 women of noble status. The 6 women were either the most beloved women of the emperor, or demigods with great forces backing them and noble divine blood flowing in their veins. In order to show that the 6 women were different from the other women, the emperor concubines conferred the title of 2 empresses and 4 imperial concubines. The status of the other concubines was far inferior to that of the 6 women. In the Mauryan Empire, unless the 2 empresses and 4 imperial concubines had no children, the children of the other concubines had no right to inherit the empire. Yang Feng's eyes flashed with a peculiar glint, and he said slowly, the emperor of the Mauryan Empire is so muddle-headed. Andro's eyes flashed with disdain, and he said, the emperor of the Mauryan Empire is a good-for-nothing. Not only is he fond of men, but he's also extremely muddle-headed and uses people in a mess. If it wasn't for the deep foundation of the Mauryan Empire, it would have collapsed long ago. Yang Feng shook his head and said slowly, impossible. No matter how much of a good-for-nothing and muddle-headed he is, the Mauryan Empire won't collapse. Because there are gods watching from the sky. The Mauryan Empire was an empire supported by the Zalia divine system. In the empire, there were countless temples and believers of the Zalia divine system's gods. The gods of the Zalia divine system would never let the Mauryan Empire collapse. If they thought it was necessary, they would use various methods to interfere with the secular world. They would destroy the forces that threatened the Mauryan Empire. As long as each god of the Zalia divine system sent a divine chosen, the terrifying power would be enough to destroy Yang Feng's small miracle city. Yang Feng glanced at Andro and said solemnly, Andro, you made a great contribution this time. I'll definitely reward you handsomely. How about serving me by my side? Andro's eyes flashed with joy, yet he still said respectfully, if Ardace agrees, then this subordinate is willing to go to Sir's side and serve you, sir. Yang Feng smiled and tossed a vial of elixir towards Andro, I'll talk to Ardace about it. This is your reward. Drink it and you'll be able to extend your lifespan by 10 years and promote to a knight-rank powerhouse in one fell swoop. Thank you, sir. Andro was currently just an advanced warrior. After he received the vial of elixir, he immediately had a look of ecstasy on his face and said respectfully to Yang Feng. Yang Feng, who had built a portable fortified stronghold not far from the Miracle City, could synthesize elixirs that could promote people to the knight rank in bulk. However, if Yang Feng took out the elixirs for the slave warriors to use for no reason, then it would seem that the elixirs were too cheap. It might even arouse people's suspicions. In this war, the slave warriors also made great contributions. Therefore, Yang Feng could justifiably use the elixirs to enhance the strength of the slaves and remove their status as slaves. A warrior walked up to Yang Feng and said, "My lord, Archbishop Esteban of the Sun Temple invites you to see him. He's finally here." Yang Feng frowned slightly, then relaxed his eyebrows. He contemplated for a while, and then said unhurriedly, "Take me to see him." In the center of Bar-Roman city, there was a magnificent group of divine halls. Among the countless divine halls, there was the most sacred and noble one. There was a sun engraved on top of the divine hall, and in the sun stood a young man with blonde hair and blue eyes, holding a golden holy sword. The huge temple released formidable fluctuations of power at all times, shrouding and guarding the entire Bar-Roman city. This huge temple was the Sun Temple of the Bar-Roman city. When Yang Feng arrived in front of the Sun Temple, he operated a secret method and looked at the temple. He saw a layer of extremely rich faith power shrouding the Sun Temple and exuding formidable fluctuations of power. On the Faesua plain, basically every city had a temple. However, the size of the temples varied, and the power they possessed varied as well. Along the way, Yang Feng didn't encounter any decent resistance because the clergymen of the temples in the cities didn't put up any resistance. Of course, in exchange, Yang Feng didn't touch any of the clergymen in the cities. On the Faesua plain, every clergyman was a servant of a god. If it wasn't necessary, Yang Feng wouldn't lightly touch the clergyman. A middle-aged bishop dressed in a bishop's robe with an arrogant expression walked out of the Sun Temple. Behind the middle-aged bishop were a dozen or so beautiful nuns dressed in nun robes. The middle-aged bishop looked condescendingly at Yang Feng and asked coldly, "Are you Ian?" Yang Feng frowned slightly, and then said indifferently, "I am Ian." Act said arrogantly and contemptuously, "I am the bishop of the Sun Temple, Act. The Bar-Roman city belongs to the mighty sun god Dragoni, it's not a city that you barbarians can desecrate. Get out. You're not welcome here." Yang Feng smiled faintly, his eyes flashed with a cold glint, and he took a step forward and punched Act in the face. A few of Act's teeth were knocked out, his face was covered in blood, and he was sent flying several meters away. When he fell to the ground, he twitched and fainted. As a bishop rank expert, the might of Act's offensive divine spells was comparable to that of level 2 warlocks. However, his fleshly body was also extremely frail, unable to withstand a single blow. "What are you doing? Barbarian! Do you want to blaspheme the mighty sun god Dragoni?" The complexions of the dozen nuns following behind Act changed dramatically, and they issued shrill screams. The Sun Temple had always been aloof in the Bar-Roman city. Even the governor of the Melinsan province had to be polite when he saw the nuns, not daring to act recklessly. Now, a bishop-rank bigwig was punched to the ground by Yang Feng like a dead dog, which was simply unimaginable. Yang Feng swept the dozen chattering nuns with a glance. His gaze turned cold, he unsheathed the sword at his waist, and barked coldly, "Shut up, all of you. Now, I am the master of the Bar-Roman city. I can decide your fate with a word. I can let you live, but I can also let you die. I can let you go to heaven, but I can also let you taste the pain of hell." The more than 30 guards next to Yang Feng unsheathed the swords at their waist and pointed at the dozen nuns. So long as Yang Feng gave the order, they would rush into the Sun Temple and kill all the nuns. The pretty complexions of the dozen beautiful nuns changed, they felt a chill in their hearts, and their delicate bodies trembled. Chapter 246. Master Ian, they're just a bunch of ignorant girls. Why lower yourself to the level of these girls? A gentle and magnetic voice slowly came from the shrine. A handsome man in the uniform of the Archbishop of the Sun Shrine slowly walked out of the shrine. He was enveloped in a layer of holy light, giving people a good impression. He was about 31 or 32 years old and wore the clothes of the Archbishop of the Sun Shrine. Behind the young man were 5 bishops of the Sun Temple. All the light was overshadowed by the young man's light. Yang Feng praised in his heart, "What an outstanding quack, he can compete with me." As a most outstanding and professional quack, he must be shrouded in sacred light at all times, giving people a favorable impression of him and giving people a sense of worship, awe, and awe. In this way, it would be more convenient to preach. When necessary, Yang Feng would never be stingy with his spirit force and cast a holy radiance spell on himself. This would make him look more amiable and sacred. In many churches, one of the important criteria for selecting priests and nuns was to have good facial features and outstanding looks. The more handsome and beautiful a person was, the easier it was for them to be promoted in the church. In fact, in terms of appearance alone, the young man was more than a notch better than Yang Feng. After all, the young man was a professional quack. When the beautiful nuns saw the man shrouded in holy light, their eyes flashed with admiration. They bowed to him respectfully and said, "Archbishop Esteban." The 5 bishops following behind Esteban glanced at Bishop Act lying on the ground, and then focused their gazes on Yang Feng, and their eyes flashed with anger. Esteban said with a gentle smile, "Master Ian, my subordinates were a bit rude, please forgive them." Yang Feng smiled faintly. He didn't expose the fact that Esteban was hiding not far from the temple when Bishop Act came out. Yang Feng said calmly, "Although I am a believer of the great Weave Goddess. However, I maintain humility and respect for the great gods of the Zalia divine system. This act went so far as to sow discord between the great Weave Goddess and the great Sun God. I guess that he should be a heretic who infiltrated the Sun Temple in an attempt to sow discord between the 2 temples. He should be burned at the stake." When he said this, the complexions of the dozen beautiful nuns and the 5 bishops changed dramatically. Heresy was one of the biggest crimes in the churches of the Faisua Plain. Once someone was convicted of heresy, what awaited them would be the cruelest punishment and burning at the stake. The people of the Sun Temple didn't expect Yang Feng to be so ruthless as to directly accuse Act of heresy. Once this crime was carried out, Act's soul would not be able to return to the divine country of the sun god Dragoni after his death. Instead, he would fall into the netherworld or the abyss. Esteban's heart trembled slightly, but he still maintained a kind smile on his face as he said, "Act is a bit impatient and usually makes some small mistakes. However, I can guarantee that he is not a heretic. If he offended you in any way, I apologize on his behalf." Yang Feng said coldly with an expressionless face, "Sir Esteban, I have 2,000 cavalrymen, 5,000 warriors, and a wizard squad under my command. So long as I give the order, the Sun Temple in the Bar-Roman city will cease to exist. Do you really want to make an enemy of me for a trifling act? If anything happens to the Sun Temple in the Bar-Roman city, then I'm afraid that none of you here will be able to return to the divine country of the great Sun God after your death." The complexions of the people of the Sun Temple suddenly changed dramatically and their eyes flashed with panic. The Faisua Plain was a world with gods. On this plain, if the clergymen of the churches were pious, then after their death, they could be taken into the divine country of their god and be reborn there. The sun god Dragoni was a powerful god with his own divine country. He could take his believers into his divine country after their death. Many of the clergymen of the Sun Temple were willing to die on the battlefield so that they could return to their divine country. But if the Sun Temple was destroyed, then they would be unable to return to their divine country after their death after committing such a great crime. This would be the greatest punishment for them. Esteban still had a refreshing smile on his face. After a few words, he took a few steps back and said, "Master Ian, the Sun Temple has no intention of getting involved in secular disputes. As long as you don't offend the believers of the Sun Church, then the Sun Temple can remain neutral." Originally, Esteban intended to have Yang Feng not attack the believers of the gods of the Zalia divine system. However, under Yang Feng's aggressiveness, he could only choose to protect the believers of the Sun Temple. Yang Feng asked, "How do I distinguish which believers of the Sun Church are?" Esteban said unhurriedly, "Every devout believer has a temple badge bestowed upon them by the Sun Temple in front of their house. Please don't harass them." Yang Feng waved his hand, a silencing spell shrouded him and Esteban, and said with a light smile, 50,000 gold coins for a badge. Every time I find a badge, I have to collect 50,000 gold coins from the Sun Temple." Esteban frowned and said, "The Sun Temple doesn't have that much gold coins." Yang Feng said in a tempting tone, "You can say that the Miracle City forced you to collect it. There are so many greater aristocrats in the Baraman City, what's 50,000 gold coins for a badge? You can directly collect 100,000 gold coins from them. Didn't the 50,000 gold coins fall directly into the hands of the Sun Temple? The culprit of all this is the Miracle City, while the Sun Temple has no other choice. You really are a fiend. Esteban sighed slowly, revealed a smile, and said faintly, in order to spread the glory of the great sun god, I can only be forced to cooperate with a fiend. Gods didn't need gold coins, only faith. However, churches in the secular world didn't lack gold coins. Without gold coins, the influence of churches couldn't expand. Esteban only weighed the pros and cons for a moment, and then made a wise choice. In any case, with Yang Feng as a scapegoat, no matter how high the badge sales fee he collected was, the greater aristocrats would only be grateful to him and hate Yang Feng. Yang Feng and Esteban looked at each other and smiled, and their relationship became a bit closer. Yang Feng said, Esteban, I need proof of identity as a bishop of the Sun Temple. Esteban frowned slightly and asked vigilantly, what do you want that for? I want to meet the governor of the Malinsan province, preferably in a peaceful manner. What do you want to do with him? Yang Feng said with a light smile, I think that the Malinsan province needs a great hero who can defeat the fiend Ian. I hope that this great hero will be the governor of the Malinsan province. Esteban was silent for a good while, before revealing a smile and exclaiming in admiration, You're really a smart man. The governor of the Malinsan province was a good-for-nothing among good-for-nothings. Esteban originally planned to take the experts of the Sun Temple to defend the Baraman city. As a result, not only did the governor of the Malinsan province run away, but he also caused the collapse of more than 100,000 soldiers. Esteban's Sun Temple did nothing. If the governor of the Malinsan province was the great hero who subdued the Malinsan province, then it would be the best choice for Yang Feng. In this way, Yang Feng wouldn't have to face the experts of the Morin's Empire, and could calmly return to the Miracle City to recuperate and strengthen himself. After all, the Morin's Empire was one of the most powerful empires on the Feisua Plain, and its comprehensive strength was more than 10,000 times that of the Miracle City. If the battle continued, then once the huge war machine of the Morin's Empire was fully activated, it could easily crush Yang Feng's Miracle City. At present, Yang Feng had already made a fortune in the Malinsan province, looting goods and gold coins in the hundreds of millions. As long as he returned to the Miracle City and digested the spoils of war, his strength would soar geometrically. Retreating and admitting defeat was the best choice. This was an open and aboveboard scheme, and Yang Feng wasn't worried that Esteban would find out about it. As long as the governor of the Malinsan province knew of Yang Feng's intentions, he would firmly grasp this life-saving straw. Although the governor of the Malinsan province was a good-for-nothing, but he had a huge force behind him, which could suppress all dissent. Esteban said, I'll go with you to see Busso. With me around, you can easily see him in person. Yang Feng asked in amazement, You're going in person? Esteban said meaningfully, That's right. Although Busso is a good-for-nothing, but the South Royal Consort Katerina behind him is my best ally. I have to give him a hand personally. It was easy to be an official with someone in the court. In order to influence the huge empire of the Morin's Empire, the temples would send their agents into the court or the harem. Obviously, the South Royal Consort Katerina was either a believer of the Sun Church or a staunch ally of the Sun Church. In addition to the Sun Church, the forces of the various churches also deeply infiltrated the Morin's Empire. In the Morin's Empire, the struggle between imperial power and church power had never ceased. If it wasn't for the noble divine bloodline flowing in the royal family of the Morin's Empire, the Morin's Empire would have been under the complete control of the churches. Although the imperial power was slightly suppressed by the church power in the Morin's Empire, but the imperial power was still very powerful and couldn't be underestimated. North of the Baroman city, an army of about 20,000 people was fleeing in a sorry state. People were constantly taking off their leather armor and discarding their weapons in order to make themselves more relaxed. Under normal circumstances, this kind of behavior would definitely be stopped by the upper echelons and severely punished. But in that army, no one cared about it. Everyone just kept on fleeing. Hurry! Hurry up, hurry up! You good-for-nothings, hurry up and protect your master. A fat man with glossy skin and a belly like a huge beer barrel, a sullen expression on his face, holding a horsewhip, kept berating. A high-ranking officer stepped forward and advised, "Governor Busso, the current speed is already at the limit. If we go any faster, the infantry won't be able to hold on." Busso said loudly, "Then let's abandon the infantry. We still have 2,000 cavalrymen. As long as the 2,000 cavalrymen escort me to the imperial capital, you'll all be greatly rewarded. If we go any slower, the fiend Ian will lead his troops to kill me. Now, you have to be fast, understand? You good-for-nothings." The complexions of the generals beside Busso changed dramatically, and they remained silent. Furious gazes were focused on Busso. If Busso hadn't ordered the high-ranking officers to escort him out of here as the governor, the Bar-Roman city wouldn't have collapsed. The generals had analyzed it many times and concluded that as long as Busso held fast to the Bar-Roman city, he wouldn't fail. Unfortunately, Busso stubbornly gave the order to flee, which allowed the Bar-Roman city to easily fall into Yang Feng's hands. A handsome young general immediately echoed, "That's right, Sir Busso is right. With the infantry, when can we escape? It was time to abandon the infantrymen. If we hurry up with the cavalry, we can escape the pursuit of the miracle city." Busso praised loudly with satisfaction, "Good. Ovano, you said it well. When I'm safe, I'll promote you to a commander." Ovano was overjoyed and said, "Thank you, Sir Governor." Ovano swept the indignant high-ranking officers with a glance and said coldly, "You lot, hurry up and carry out Sir Governor's order. Don't tell me you want to rebel." Busso immediately shouted, "Yes. You lot, hurry up and carry out the order. Otherwise, you'll be charged with treason. That's a great crime that will bring disaster to the family." "Yes, Sir Governor." Helpless, the high-ranking officers could only comply. Under Busso's order, the 2,000 cavalrymen immediately escorted Busso and the high-ranking officers of the Malinsan province and quickly fled. "These bastards! We've been abandoned. Disperse! We've been abandoned. Everyone, disperse!" The more than 20,000 infantrymen issued wails and immediately dispersed, fleeing in all directions. "This guy is really a genius." In the sky, wrapped in a black cloth, Yang Feng looked at the 20,000 scattered infantrymen and couldn't help but praise them. The 20,000 infantrymen were the remaining 20,000 most elite warriors of the Malinsan province. Without using poison, Yang Feng would have to expend some effort to defeat the 20,000 elite infantrymen. Now, before he even made a move, the 20,000 warriors collapsed on their own, which left him feeling somewhat incredulous. Esteban smiled bitterly and shook his head, saying, "He usually behaves well. When he was young, he was a famous genius in the aristocratic circle. I didn't expect that he would behave so badly when things really happened." Chapter 247. Riding the magic carpet, Yang Feng's group of two smoothly circled to in front of Busso's 2,000 cavalrymen. "I am Archbishop Esteban of the Sun Temple. Tell Governor Busso to come see me." Esteban jumped off the magic carpet, landed on the ground, and blocked in front of Busso's troops. A dazzling sun slowly rose behind him, radiating endless light, indicating his identity as the Archbishop of the Sun Temple. When the 2,000 cavalrymen saw the sun and heard Esteban's words, their hearts shook, and they spurred their horses to a halt. On the Fesua plain, the people that couldn't be provoked the most were churches. Once they were judged to be heretics by the church, their entire family would be burned at the stake. Even aristocrats, once judged to be heretics, would be burned to death and have their titles confiscated. Their entire family would be implicated. Moreover, this was a world with gods. Gods held high in their star-divine countries, and from time to time, they would descend miracles in the secular world. Everyone knew of the existence of gods, and they were full of reverence for the churches that worshipped gods. "Greetings, Archbishop." A dozen high-ranking officers escorted Busso out. After seeing Esteban, they bowed slightly in salute and said respectfully. Esteban was recognized as a genius of the Sun Temple, a powerhouse most likely to promote to a legend rank archbishop. The high-ranking officers naturally didn't dare to slight him. When Busso came out, he saw the magic carpet behind Esteban. His eyes lit up, and he asked full of expectation, "Esteban, are you here to take me with you?" On the Feisua plain, there were no secret treasures refined by the Tsangji Plain's human warlocks. However, there were still some magic items circulating in the world. As a greater aristocrat, Busso wasn't surprised by magic items such as magic carpets. He had a few life-saving magic items, but he didn't have a high-grade flight secret treasure such as a magic carpet. Esteban swept Busso with a dignified glance and said in an indisputable tone, "I brought someone who wants to have a good talk with you. Let's go over there and have a good talk." "Yes." Awed by Esteban's imposing manner, Busso obediently followed Esteban and Busso away from the 2,000 cavalrymen. Yang Feng silently recited an incantation, pointed at the surroundings, a magic radiance flickered, and a silent spell was cast, shrouding the three people. Esteban said lightly, "This person who wants to see you is Master Ian of the Miracle City." "Greetings, Master Ian. A friend of Archbishop Esteban is also a friend of mine." "No, Master Ian, you are Demon Ian." Busso spoke straightforwardly at first. Suddenly, he reacted, and his face changed dramatically. He took a few steps back and looked at Yang Feng with fear in his eyes. Yang Feng pulled away the black cloth covering his face, revealed his true face, and said with a smile to Busso, "That's right, I am Master Ian, the fiend Ian you speak of. Master Ian, please spare my life. I beg you, spare my life. I'll give you a lot of money. I'll give you a lot of ransom. Spare my life. I don't want to die yet." Busso knelt on the ground and cried loudly. Snot and tears flowed down his face as he begged bitterly. This guy is really of the highest quality. Yang Feng found it funny, but he strengthened his resolve. Yang Feng said with a smile, "Governor Busso, I didn't come here to kill you. Instead, I came here to give you a great credit. Under the leadership of Governor Busso, the army of the Miracle City suffered successive defeats and eventually retreated back to the Miracle City. What do you think of this credit? You didn't come here to kill me." Busso was taken aback. He wiped the snot and tears off his face, got up, and his eyes lit up, saying, "You want to fake a war and lose to me on purpose? What do you want in return?" Yang Feng was slightly surprised. He thought that Busso was a good-for-nothing, but he didn't expect Busso to react so quickly and grasp the crux of the matter. Yang Feng said lightly, "Governor Busso, with such a great credit, can you keep the position of governor of the Malinsan province in peace?" Busso's eyes lit up and he said with a beaming smile, "If it was someone else, even if they made such a great contribution, they would still be demoted to a commoner. However, with the strength of our family, I can atone for my crimes by making such a great contribution and firmly sit on the position of governor of the Malinsan province." It was easy to be an official in the court. In the Morince Empire, the Busso family had great power. His younger sister, the southern royal consort Katerina, was one of the 4 consorts favored by the emperor of the Morince Empire. If he suffered a crushing defeat, Katerina wouldn't be able to protect him. However, once he staged a stunning counterattack, he would be able to clear his name and make a great contribution. Yang Feng said lightly, "I want to scrape 200 million gold coins from the Baroman city." Busso was taken aback. He pondered for a while before saying, 200 million gold coins is too much. How about 100 million gold coins? I know that most of the assets of the greater aristocrats of the Baroman city are real estate. Their liquid funds are quite small, so it's very difficult to take out 100 million gold coins. However, if antiques, gems, and the like are included, then you can get 200 million gold coins. Yang Feng suddenly said, "What kind of title can I get from the Morince Empire if I request to be attached to it?" Busso's eyes lit up and he said enthusiastically, "Good. Good. Good. Master Ian, please leave this matter to me. I'll help you get it done properly." Don't worry, a hereditary peer title of Earl is out of the question. As long as you leave this matter to me, we'll be best friends. The Morance Empire sent troops to attack the Miracle City, but suffered a crushing defeat. The entire Morance Empire lost a lot of face. At this time, Busso came forward and summoned the Miracle City to surrender, expanding the territory of the Morance Empire. The Morance Empire also gained a lot of face. Busso definitely made a great contribution that gave him a lot of political capital and laid a solid foundation for climbing to a higher position. Yang Feng said, however, I don't want others to interfere with the operation of the Miracle City. What should I do? He could surrender to the Morance Empire in name, but Yang Feng didn't want the Miracle City he built to be annexed. Busso laughed and said carelessly, haha, that's easy. There are so many bandits in the Red Earth Wasteland. It's very common for officials to accidentally die at the hands of bandits. Everyone does it. As long as you do it cleanly, no one will find out about it. With the Cayman family covering up for you in the imperial court, you won't be able to stir up any waves. Although Busso was timid and afraid of death, but he was very clear about the various ways of the Morance Empire. When it came to killing people, he played it down and didn't seem to care. Clearly, his hands were stained with who knows how much blood. The corners of Yang Feng's mouth rose slightly, revealing a smile. The behemoth Morance Empire was so chaotic that he could fish in troubled waters. Archbishop Esteban watched with a smile as Yang Feng and Busso discussed how to cooperate and how to plunder the Malinsan province. For Busso, Yang Feng's attack on the Malinsan province was a great opportunity. He could take the opportunity to eradicate his political enemies. He could borrow Yang Feng's hands to get rid of all his enemies and make a big profit. Yang Feng and Esteban could make a fortune out of it. For the Sun Temple, as long as Yang Feng cooperated well in this invasion, he could expand the faith of the Sun Church in the Malinsan province and increase the devotion of the believers. As for the life and death of other people, Esteban didn't care. 3 days later, Busso suddenly led 2,000 cavalrymen to counterattack the Bar Roman city. The troops of the Miracle City were defeated and withdrew from the Bar Roman city in an orderly manner. A day later, Busso personally led 2,000 cavalrymen in pursuit and once again defeated the main force of the Miracle City in the Talon city. Within 10 days, the main force of the Miracle City was defeated 10 times in 10 battles. Reports of their victories were sent to the capital of the Morance Empire like raindrops. A peerless general of the Morance Empire named Busso gradually rose to prominence. Under Busso's frantic pursuit, the main force of the Miracle City finally returned in defeat. Carrying treasures and goods dozens of kilometers long, they happily escorted countless slaves back to their base in the Red Earth Wasteland. The capital of the Morance Empire, the Saint Talon city. As one of the 2 imperial capitals of the Morance Empire on the Faisua Plain, this city wasn't something that could be built by mortals. It was a divine city personally built by the gods in a miraculous manner. The city wall of the Saint Talon city was 200 meters tall and made of the highest grade of mysterious steel rock. Besides, it was blessed by the gods of the Zalia divine system. The city wall of the Saint Talon city was enchanted with numerous defensive divine spells. Even a demigod-rank powerhouse with a divine armament would find it difficult to destroy the city wall. In the center of this Saint Talon city, there were magnificent, sacred, and noble temples. Formidable fluctuations of power emanated from the temples and formed powerful boundaries that enveloped the entire Saint Talon city. Any dark or evil life form that entered this Saint Talon city blessed by the gods would be purified. Any spiritual type or control type spells that entered this barrier would be weakened and revealed. It was practically impossible for anyone to control the upper echelon of the Saint Talon city through evil spells. Within the Saint Talon city, there were only temples of the gods of the Zalia divine system. Even a powerful god like the Weave goddess couldn't have her own temple in the Saint Talon city and preach openly. Chapter 248. About 10 kilometers away from the magnificent temple complex, there was an exquisite and luxurious imperial palace with a 50-meter tall city wall. Inside the imperial palace, there were countless blessings of the gods and all kinds of powerful perpetual divine spells. In the imperial palace, poisons, spells, and other control methods could easily be purified by the perpetual spells left by the gods. In the history of the Mauryan Empire, none of the successive emperors had been poisoned to death or had their minds controlled by powerful wizards. In some of the smaller duchies, there would be news from time to time that some of the smaller duchies' kings were controlled by powerful mages or dark creatures. The imperial palace, in the reception hall. An elderly man with a crown on his head and a set of royal robes sat on the throne. He had a burly figure and was quite handsome, but his eyes were slightly swollen. He gave off a dignified aura, but at the same time, he gave off an aura of decay. The old man was the emperor of the Mauryan Empire, Mauryan 2867th. The Mauryan Empire was a human empire born after the War of the Gods. Under the protection of the Zalia divine system, the ancient and huge empire declined, sank, and experienced countless rebellions, upheavals, coups, and divisions. Even so, it was still passed down from ancient times. As long as the gods of the Zalia divine system didn't abandon the Mauryan Empire, and as long as the gods of the Zalia divine system weren't defeated or suppressed by other powerful beings, the Mauryan Empire wouldn't be completely destroyed. This was the difference between a state protected by a god and a state without one. Before the gods of the Zalia divine system were suppressed, any force that threatened the survival of the Mauryan Empire would eventually be destroyed by the gods. Yang Feng wisely quit while he was ahead and returned to the Miracle City with his troops. An official walked to the center of the reception hall and said loudly, "Your Majesty, Governor Busso of the Malinsan province has a report of success." Mauryan's 2867th's spirit shook slightly, and he said in a slightly aged voice, "Read it." The official read slowly, "Yes. I, Busso, led 2,000 cavalrymen, caught up with the main force of Master Ian of the Miracle City in the Red Earth City. I fought desperately and suffered 18 sword wounds. In the end, I beheaded over 7,000 people and defeated Master Ian's main force. I recaptured the Red Earth City in one fell swoop. Recover the entire Malinsan province." In the assembly hall, the eyes of the ministers standing on both sides of the Mauryan Empire flickered with strange looks. The well-informed ministers of the Mauryan Empire had long since learned through their intelligence network that Busso had fled before Yang Feng's main force arrived at the Bar Roman city, leaving behind an intact Bar Roman city for Yang Feng to loot. Immediately after, as if with the help of the gods, Busso defeated Yang Feng's forces again and again. This was the 44th time he reported victory. According to the statistics in Busso's report, he had already killed more than 200,000 people from Miracle City. Mauryan's 2867th said with a faint smile, "In the face of adversity, Busso still doesn't give up." In the end, with 2,000 cavalrymen, he mounted a sneak attack on Ian's main force and inflicted heavy damage on him. He's really a pillar of the Mauryan Empire. As His Majesty said, Governor Busso is really an example for us to learn from. Governor Busso didn't panic in the face of danger. He took the initiative to abandon the Bar Roman city to win Ian's heart, and then took the opportunity to mount a sneak attack on the Bar Roman city and defeat the Devil Ian's main force. Furthermore, he defeated the Devil Ian 44 times in a row. His military ability is simply unpredictable. He's really a pillar of the Mauryan Empire. His Majesty should reward him handsomely. As if they had seen it with their own eyes, the officials of Busso's family loudly praised Busso's achievements and inverted the truth. The imperial court was silent. No one came forward to debunk the big lie. As if a puppet statue, Casimiro, the prime minister of the Mauryan Empire, stood in place, not saying a word. Mauryan's 2867th said faintly, "Good. Busso has indeed made a great contribution this time. However, he has also lost a lot of territory before. Merits offset demerits, so there's no reward or punishment. Let him continue to be the governor of the Malinsan province. Your Majesty is wise." In the imperial court, countless important officials of the imperial court respectfully said in unison. An official came forward respectfully and said, "Your Majesty, Governor Busso is a man of great talent and bold vision. After defeating the Devil Ian in the Red Earth City, he finally persuaded the Devil Ian to agree to attach to the Morinth Empire. This is the letter of request offered by the Devil Ian. Please have a look, Your Majesty. Morinth 2867th's eyes lit up, and he said solemnly, the Devil Ian is willing to attach. Hand over the letter of request. The official respectfully handed the letter of request to Morinth 2867. The letter of request was specially prepared by Busso for Yang Feng. It contained many humble words, stating that the fiend Ian was inspired by the great Morinth's 2867th personality. Moved by Busso's emotions and reasoning, the fiend Ian was finally persuaded to join the Morinth Empire as an aristocrat. Morinth 2867th's face flushed and he praised repeatedly, good. 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 This Ian is really sensible. Haha, under my rule, the territory of the Morinth Empire has expanded again. This achievement surpasses that of countless ancestors. Haha. Ian and Busso have done a good job, I want to reward them handsomely. Ever since he inherited the throne, Morinth 2867 had everything he wanted. His only regret was that he couldn't make any contributions and surpass his ancestors. Now that the Miracle City had chosen to attach, the territory of the Morinth Empire had expanded again. Morinth 2867 would become the most accomplished emperor among the more than 2,000 emperors of the Morinth Empire, which was enough for him to show off to his ancestors and descendants. The official continued to propose, Your Majesty, Governor Busso believes that Master Ian has attached the entire Miracle City and made outstanding contributions. Only by conferring him the title of Duke can he reward his contributions. As for his fief, let the Red Earth Wasteland be his fief. Anyway, the Red Earth Wasteland isn't part of the territory of the Morinth Empire. With his Miracle City as a barrier, we can resist the military pressure from the three empires, the Beastman Empire, the Elven Empire, and the Titan Empire, from the Red Earth Wasteland. If Yang Feng's incarnation of Ian was conferred the title of Duke in one fell swoop, then the Busso family would gain a political ally of a hereditary peer greater aristocrat in the Morinth Empire. It would also be of great benefit to the Busso family. With a flushed complexion, Morinth 2867 was ready to accept the appointment. Good. Good. Morinth 2867 had long since heard about the barrenness of the Red Earth Wasteland. That piece of barren land had never been on his mind. The mobilization of the Hunting Fang Corps was promoted by some greater aristocrats who coveted the wealth of Yang Feng's Miracle City in the imperial court. As long as Yang Feng's Miracle City was captured, then those greater aristocrats would be able to swallow it whole. The Morinth Empire was huge, but many of its vast territories already had their own masters. The Miracle City, which had no background, was the best target to annex. Even if those greater aristocrats swallowed this fat piece of meat, it wouldn't cause too much of a backlash. No! Your Majesty, you mustn't. At this moment, a tall, handsome middle-aged man with a trace of an overbearing aura between his eyebrows stepped forward, came to the center of the hall, and said loudly. Morinth 2867th's face sank slightly, and he said coldly, Iser, state your reason. Your Majesty, the fiend Ian killed 100,000 soldiers of the Hunting Fang Corps and 50,000 soldiers of the Silver Sword Corps. At the same time, he entered the Malinsan province and burned and looted, killing hundreds of thousands of people. We mustn't let such a fiend possess us. Governor Busso, reports of success have been coming in every day, and he has defeated the fiend Ian's main force in the Red Earth City in one fell swoop. He's really a peerless general of the Morinth Empire. I think we should let him lead his troops to attack the Miracle City, capture it, and offer it to you, Your Majesty. That's the best plan. Iser said with a cold smile to the officials of Governor Busso's faction. The complexions of many officials of Governor Busso's faction changed slightly. They knew very well how Busso won this victory. If Governor Busso led his troops into the Red Earth Wasteland, only death would await him. Morinth 2867 swept the patriarch of Busso's Orthox family with a glance and said faintly, Favio, what do you think? Favio replied calmly, Your Majesty, the Red Earth Wasteland is easy to defend and difficult to attack. It lacks water and food. If the main force attacks, the amount of provisions and water consumed will be astronomical. The Malinsan province has suffered successive military disasters, and it will be difficult to come up with the money and provisions to continue attacking the Red Earth wasteland. If the Empire wants Governor Busso to attack the Miracle City, then I believe that Governor Busso will do his utmost to capture the Red Earth wasteland for the Empire. But before that, the Empire would like to allocate 40 million gold coins for military expenses. In addition, it is also necessary to allocate 2 corps weapons, equipment, siege equipment, and a large amount of provisions. Otherwise, if we rashly enter the Red Earth wasteland without sufficient preparation, we will only repeat the defeat of the Hunting Fawn Corps. Morin's 2867 frowned slightly and sank into his thoughts. So much money and provisions. Chapter 249. Cold sweat trickled down Duke Iser's back. His mind revolved lightning fast, and he immediately said loudly, "Your Majesty, it's not that I'm unwilling to serve you. It's just that after rashly attacking the Amon Principality, I lost more than 50% of my private troops. I can't collect the required 30 million gold coins of compensation for the time being. If you want me to send troops, I won't hesitate to do so. However, Your Majesty, please allocate 70 million gold coins as well as the provisions needed for a corps to fight for a year. Otherwise, even if I go to the Red Earth wasteland, it would just be a repeat of the defeat of the Hunting Fawn Corps." Morin's 2867th wasn't willing to cut down on the gold coins that he enjoyed himself and then spend them on military expenses. An official of the Hansen family stepped forward and barked, "Duke Iser has agreed to send troops, but the provisions are lacking. Sir Favio, your Orthics family also has 15,000 private troops, so why don't you take the initiative to serve His Majesty? Are you the one who wants to strengthen yourself with troops?" The official opened his hand and an image crystal shone with light. In the hall, a beautiful girl wearing a silver dress appeared. She had a head of dazzling golden hair, a tall figure, skin as white as jade, exquisite facial features, and a pair of beautiful eyes that seemed to speak. She was like a peerless beauty who had walked out of a painting. Morin's 2867th's turbid eyes suddenly flashed with a bright light. He looked at the official full of expectation, and a trace of vitality seemed to emerge in his aged body. Favio said with a faint smile, "Your Majesty, this humble servant hasn't finished yet." After the defeat of the Hunting Fawn Corps, the warriors of the Malinsan province with fighting strength were almost exhausted. Although Governor Busso defeated the fiend Ian in succession, but he also suffered many casualties. It will take at least 2 years to recruit and train the soldiers and restore their fighting strength. Morin's 2867th pondered for a while before saying, "Since it's so troublesome to send troops, then let's forget about it. Since Ian wants to attach himself to us, then let's confer him the title of Earl of the Red Earth Wasteland. As for the fief, it's the entire Red Earth Wasteland. Have him contribute 200,000 gold coins every year." An official of the Orthics family came to the center of the reception hall and said, "Your Majesty, this humble servant has something to report." Morin's 2867th's aged, turbid eyes flashed with a bright gleam. The wealth of 1 billion gold coins moved him a little, and he looked at Favio. However, Morin's 2867th didn't play his cards according to common sense, forcing Duke Iser into a dilemma. Yang Feng leading the Miracle City to attach himself to the Morin's Empire was a peerless achievement. With this peerless achievement, Busso would soon become an important pillar of the Morin's Empire. He would soon become an important pillar of the Orthics family in the Morin's Empire. Favio also showed a smile. Of Ian. Accompanying a ruler was like accompanying a tiger, especially an incapable ruler like Morin's 2867th, who had tremendous power and acted as he pleased. It was even more dangerous. The Isan, and, Ian, and, Ian. Iser said loudly, "Your Majesty, the fiend Ian plundered more than 1 billion gold coins from the Malinsan province. The Empire only has to spend 40 million gold coins to defeat the fiend Ian, and the 1 billion gold coins will be returned to the treasury. Morince 2867 frowned slightly. He couldn't wait for 2 years. Morince 2867's eyes flashed with a shrewd light, and he said with a loud laugh, "Good. Good. Good. Fabio, you said it well. Iser, I order you to attack the Miracle City with your family's private army." After capturing the Miracle City, I'll reward you with 100 million gold coins from the wealth of the Miracle City. On the Fesua plain, there was an ancient feudal system. Within their fiefs, greater aristocrats had various privileges such as collecting taxes and enacting laws. It was almost equivalent to a state within a state. However, every year, aristocrats had to pay a portion of gold coins or materials to the empire according to the size of their fiefs and the richness of their fiefs to show their submission to the empire. If the aristocrats failed to pay the specified amount of gold coins and materials to the empire, then the empire had the right to take back the fiefs granted to the aristocrats. Morince 2867 said somewhat impatiently, "What's the matter? Spit it out." When Duke Iser saw the peerlessly beautiful girl, his complexion changed dramatically, and he stared at the smiling Fabio with resentment and anger in his eyes. "Your Majesty is wise." The Morince Empire was huge. For this huge empire, 40 million gold coins was nothing. However, most of the taxes collected by the huge empire had to be paid for the huge civil service system as well as the expenditure of millions of troops. Coupled with the fact that Emperor Morince had always been extravagant, it was very difficult to mobilize 40 million gold coins in a hurry. In the court, all the voices disappeared and everyone quieted down. Although Busso was timid and had almost no ability to command troops, but he had a good political sense and mind. He was one of the highest-ranking members of the younger generation of the Orthox family. Iser said coldly, "The Hansen family is His Majesty's most loyal subject. The Hansen family is absolutely duty-bound to share His Majesty's burdens. But when an army goes to war, provisions come first. Without enough money and provisions, how can a war be supported? Fabio, your family's Governor Busso has submitted 44 reports of victory in a row. In the reports, the number of people beheaded has exceeded 200,000. I heard that the total population of the Miracle City is no more than 50,000. Where did the 200,000 enemies come from?" When Duke Iser heard that, his complexion suddenly changed dramatically. The Hansen family had 20,000 elite private troops, which were the lifeblood of the Hansen family and the foundation for Duke Iser to run amok in the Morince Empire. Once the 20,000 elite private troops were wiped out, the Hansen family would fall from a top aristocratic family to an ordinary aristocratic family, and its strength would decline greatly. For Morince 2867, 200,000 gold coins was not a small amount. After all, the Red Earth wasteland had always been a desolate place with no special products. With a sharp gaze, Morince 2867 stared at Iser. Suddenly, he smiled and said casually, "Iser, what do you think?" The official replied calmly, "Your Majesty, this girl is called Faldina, a personal disciple of the Titan Empire's legend wizard Arvida. Reportedly, she has the bloodline of the Titan goddess of charm and is a legendary divine descendant. According to the information I received, she has a close relationship with Edith, the son of Duke Iser. I suspect that Edith may have sold out a lot of intelligence on the Morince Empire for this girl, and that he has very likely betrayed the Morince Empire." Feeling that the Hansen family was about to face a calamity, Iser suddenly broke out in a cold sweat. He knelt on the ground and said respectfully, "Your Majesty. The Hansen family is loyal to Your Majesty, to the Empire, and will never have any disloyal thoughts. After this old official returns to the family, I will immediately use all the power of the family to capture this girl and present her to Your Majesty for interrogation." The officials of the two factions, the Orthox family and the Hansen family, stepped forward and accused each other. Fabio said coldly, "Duke Iser, the Hansen family can wage a war to exterminate a principality just for the sake of you, yet you are unwilling to serve His Majesty. You have ulterior motives." On the Fesua plain, unless it was a war between states, emperors generally had no right to order a greater aristocrat to use their private troops to fight for them. Moritz 2867 felt annoyed and said coldly. Fabio said coldly, Duke Iser, don't you want to serve His Majesty the Great Emperor? An official of the Orthics family stepped forward and barked, Duke Iser, your family's 20,000 private troops clearly didn't suffer much damage, so why aren't you willing to serve His Majesty? Does the Hansen family want to keep its troops for itself? Although Moritz 2867 was extremely muddle-headed, but he was still the emperor of the Moritz Empire and had great power. Offending Moritz 2867 was undoubtedly the stupidest decision. Once Moritz 2867 bore a grudge against them, the entire Hansen family would be in danger of being destroyed. Just as Moritz 2867's words fell, a chorus of voices came from below. Most importantly, Yang Feng had already withdrawn to the Red Earth Wasteland and was no longer a threat to the Moritz Empire. Duke Iser wanted to say something, but then hesitated. Finally, he looked at Fabio, who was watching him coldly, gave a long sigh, and fell silent. He had slightly offended Moritz 2867 by using delaying tactics. If he continued to annoy Moritz 2867, the situation of the Hansen family would become dangerous. Fabio turned his blade and mercilessly stabbed Iser. Your Majesty, I have a good proposal. The private troops of the Iser family are extremely powerful. Not long ago, Duke Iser used his private troops to destroy the Aman Principality. It would be better to let Duke Iser dispatch his private troops to serve His Majesty and capture the Miracle City in one fell swoop. Since Duke Iser is His Majesty's most loyal subject, surely you won't refuse this proposal. Shut up. Fabio said confidently. The population of the Miracle City was indeed only 50,000. However, after he attacked the Malinsan province, he captured slaves on a large scale and filled his army with them. That's why his army swelled up. Every time Governor Busso defeated the demon Ian would replenish his army, which was why he annihilated 200,000 enemies. Chapter 250. Moritz 2867 gave a satisfied smile and nodded, saying, Very well, get up. Remember, I want him alive, not dead. Iser heaved a sigh of relief, got up, and said respectfully, Yes. Your Majesty. After a long while, the court meeting was finally dismissed. About 2 kilometers west of the Imperial Palace, there was a road paved entirely with white marble. From a distance, the street looked like white jade, exuding white light. Therefore, it was called the White Jade Street. On both sides of the White Jade Street, there were many magnificent mansions. These mansions were the mansions of the ministers and greater aristocrats of the Moritz Empire in the imperial capital. Therefore, the White Jade Street was also called the Noble Street. In the middle of the White Jade Street, there was a very ordinary mansion, which was jokingly called the mansion of the puppet Prime Minister, Casimiro. A rather handsome young man shouted somewhat indignantly at the puppet Prime Minister, Casimiro, Father, why didn't you stop His Majesty? The Miracle City's Master Ian and Governor Busso of the Malinsan province clearly put on a show. Before Ian's main forces arrived, that good-for-nothing Busso fled. How could he have defeated Ian 44 times in a row and beheaded over 200,000 people? Casimiro stared at his son and suddenly gave a long sigh, saying, Amber, you're really not suited to be an official. Or rather, you're really not suited to be an official of the Moritz Empire. There are so many smart people in the imperial court. Don't tell me you can't see that something is fishy. Apart from some good-for-nothings, at least 60% of the people understood that it was a show put on by Ian and Busso. However, His Majesty wanted to save face and needed this victory, so this victory was real. Governor Busso made a great contribution. Anyone who brought this up at this juncture would make His Majesty unhappy and the Orthics family bear a grudge. I was able to hold the position of Prime Minister for so many years because I didn't block the path of others. I was just a puppet. His Majesty needed a puppet Prime Minister, and the greater aristocrats also needed a puppet Prime Minister. Only then could I sit in this position. Puppets don't make their own voices, do you understand? Once a puppet makes a sound, it will either be thrown away or destroyed. Casimiro said slowly. Amber felt a chill run down his spine. He somewhat understood how deep and cold the waters in the court of the Morince Empire were. Casimiro looked deeply at Amber and said meaningfully, "As long as His Majesty is on the throne, I can only be a puppet prime minister. Only then will I be able to die a good death, and only then will my family be able to live a life of glory and wealth." Amber said indignantly, "Damn it! How could someone like him become the emperor of an empire? Are the gods in the starry sky blind?" Casimiro's complexion suddenly changed greatly, and he crushed a magic crystal. A silencing spell immediately enveloped the entire hall, and he berated sternly with a solemn expression, "Amber, don't say such words a second time. The gods were extremely powerful. As long as you silently recited their names, they would be able to sense it. Once he notices that you speak ill of him, our family will be directly destroyed." Amber said loudly with the hot-bloodedness of a young man, "Father, I know that. However, as long as I don't say the true names of the gods, they won't sense our conversation. I just want to know why the gods would let a fatuous and incompetent person like Morince 2867 ascend to the throne of the empire. That lecherous old man exuding a putrid stench, how could he become the emperor of the Morince Empire? His ascension to the throne would only bring disaster to the Morince Empire." Casimiro hesitated for a good while before saying slowly with a solemn expression, "Amber, my son. I'll only explain it to you once, so keep it in mind." Amber nodded with a solemn expression. Casimiro's eyes flashed with ridicule, and he said with a cold smile, "That's because a person like Morince 2867 is a good emperor in the eyes of the gods." Amber's complexion changed dramatically, and he exclaimed, "How is that possible? During Morince 2867's 10+ years on the throne, the entire empire was in a foul atmosphere and the people had no way to make a living. How could he be a good emperor among the gods?" Casimiro sneered, "It's precisely because the empire is in a foul atmosphere and the people have no way to make a living. The people at the bottom of the hierarchy who are in hardship will become more devout and join the church. Only then can the gods in the starry sky get more faith power." Dumbfounded, Amber couldn't believe this fact. After the War of the Gods needed a large number of believers to recuperate, and then chose one wise ruler after another. They let them rule the land and multiply. When the population multiplied to a certain extent, a tyrant would descend and bring all kinds of suffering to the people. People would worship the gods devoutly and pray for the blessings of the gods. Then the gods would send emissaries to behead the tyrant and rectify the court. This was a cycle. Now, it should be time for the gods to harvest a large amount of faith power. Morince 2867 played the role of a tyrant. He was the good emperor that the gods liked to see the most. Before his role was completed, any action against him would be an act against the gods. "Do you understand?" said Casimiro meaningfully. When Amber heard those cruel words, his blood turned cold. "I understand." The corners of Casimiro's mouth curved into a smile of ridicule, and he said faintly, "For us, the Morince Empire doesn't matter. The most important thing is the interests of the Cunha family. As long as it doesn't harm the interests of the Cunha family, it doesn't matter even if the Morince Empire is destroyed. However, with the gods watching from the starry sky, it will be very difficult to destroy the Morince Empire." Casimiro said slowly, "The family is the foundation of us greater aristocrats. This is the consensus of all greater aristocrats. Our family is the most important thing. Not the Morince Empire. Amber, my son, do you understand? I hope you can become a little more mature in the future and not be so impulsive. I'm old, and the future heir of the Cunha family is you. The lives of over 100,000 members of the Cunha family are on you." Amber was silent for a long time, then nodded slightly. As if he had matured a lot overnight, he said slowly, "I understand, father." Casimiro showed a gratified smile. He pondered for a while before saying, "Ian is a very smart man. He didn't let victory get to his head. After reaping enough benefits, he immediately chose to attach himself to the Morinth Empire. This man isn't simple. Although the Morinth Empire has decayed, but it still has many powerhouses. It's not something that his little miracle city can contend with. Amber, if this man comes to the St. Talon city, you can get in touch with him. Amber replied, yes. Father. On White Jade Street, in another mansion of the Hanson family. Iser slowly walked into a secret room and carefully turned a vase on the edge of the secret room. Crack! Along with the sound of mechanisms, a dark passageway appeared in the secret room. At the same time, a blank scroll appeared above the secret room. A mysterious magic fluctuation enveloped Iser and scanned him for a while. Then, a black ray of light swept towards him and pulled him into the blank scroll. Only then did the pitch-black passageway mysteriously disappear, leaving only the blank painting hanging in the secret chamber. Iser only felt his vision blur, and very strangely appeared in a gloomy temple that was filled with mystery, terror, darkness, and coldness, inscribed with countless profound runes. Iser, what business do you have with us? A priest covered in a black robe, his face indistinguishable, and exuding a mysterious aura appeared from the void and said in a hoarse voice. Iser said coldly, do you know the master of the miracle city, Ian? The priest replied with a smile in a low voice, I do. He's one of our next targets. Iser frowned and said, I want him dead. Iser not only pushed the hunting Fang Corps to attack the miracle city, but also obstructed Yang Feng's promotion to a duke in the imperial court. It was conceivable that once Yang Feng's embodiment of Ian joined the Morinth Empire, the Hanson family would gain a powerful mortal enemy. The priest said with a gloomy smile, what price are you willing to pay? He's our target. Iser said solemnly, 10 million gold coins, a complete martial art for promoting to a legend knight, and 10 intelligence reports. The priest said with a gloomy smile, we'll think about it. Okay, time's up. The barrier set up by the gods of the Zalia divine system is very annoying. We won't be able to appear for long. If we succeed, we'll contact you. A black light enveloped Iser's body, and he felt his vision blur for a moment before he appeared in the black chamber again. Iser's complexion changed, and he said coldly, a bunch of stinking darkwalkers destined to live in the dark. If it weren't for me, how could you lowly things enter the St. Talon city? A powerful barrier was set up in the St. Talon city. Once dark life forms and dark forces appeared, they would be purified. However, the divine power of the gods wasn't omnipotent, after all. For countless years, the dark races still relied on the bigwigs of the St. Talon city to sneak into the god-bestowed city. Chapter 251. The Red Earth Wasteland, the Miracle City's city master's mansion, in a secret chamber. Yang Feng sat cross-legged in the secret chamber. There was a huge alchemical array engraved below him, and a large number of top-grade magic stones were scattered around him. A tremendous amount of life magic energy slowly gushed out of the top-grade magic stones and entered his body. In Yang Feng's spirit sea, a copious amount of spirit force churned and surged, converged inch by inch, and formed the third spell model engraved in his spirit sea. Dragon Breath took shape inch by inch. After the third spell model Dragon Breath was condensed, an incomparably formidable life force suddenly appeared inside Yang Feng's body, and an indescribable tremendous power welled up all over his body. The Soul Seed, which was the core of the Soul Seed, also suddenly swelled up. It continuously absorbed the life force and grew crazily. A tremendous amount of life magic energy poured into Yang Feng, and then was absorbed by him, strengthening his physique. After a long time, Yang Feng suddenly faced upwards and issued a tremendous dragon roar. He opened his eyes, which flickered brightly, and was brimming with power. The corners of Yang Feng's mouth rose slightly. Level 3 Warlock, I finally promoted to a level 3 Warlock. Since entering the Feisua plane, Yang Feng had never stopped practicing cultivation, and now he finally promoted to a level 3 Warlock. Furthermore, he was a genuine level 3 Warlock, unlike those level 3 Warlocks who relied on elixirs to advance. After promoting to a level 3 Warlock, Yang Feng's strength increased by more than several times. Yang Feng left the secret chamber, went to the underground base near the Miracle City, entered the virtual reality battle cabin, selected level 3 warlock rank enemies, and began combat training. A few days later. Master, Governor Busso requests an audience. Yang Feng had just finished training in the virtual reality battle cabin, when the communications magic box next to him suddenly rang, and Lena's voice came from the communications magic box. The communications magic box, a secret treasure refined using alchemy, wasn't as eye-catching as a mobile phone, and could be used on the Feisua plane. Wizards had all kinds of mystical means of communication, so the communications magic box wasn't anything special. Yang Feng said lightly, "Take him to the meeting hall and wait for me." Lena replied, "Yes, Master." After taking a bath, Yang Feng left the underground base and went to the Miracle City's meeting hall. When Busso saw Yang Feng, he greeted him enthusiastically, "Master Ian, good news. You are now a hereditary peer Earl of the Morance Empire. The Red Earth Wasteland is your fief." Busso regretfully said, "Our Orthox family has spent a great deal of effort for you to become a hereditary Earl. Originally, under the operation of our family, you should have been conferred the title of Duke. However, Duke Iser of the Hansen family appeared to stop him. In the end, our family fought for what was right, but we could only grant you the title of Earl. It's really regrettable." Yang Feng creased his eyebrows slightly and asked curiously, "When did I offend Duke Iser of the Hansen family?" In the Morance Empire, Yang Feng didn't know many people. He didn't know when he offended a bigwig like Duke Iser. Busso smiled and said, "In the Imperial Court, the person who ordered the Hunting Fong Corps to attack your Miracle City was Duke Iser. He has his eyes on your Miracle City." Killing intent flashed past Yang Feng's eyes, and he said with a light smile, "Understand. Governor Busso, thank you very much for your Orthox family. As for Duke Iser, he will pay for his foolishness." With a flick of his wrist, Yang Feng handed a warrior's edge to Busso. "This is a gadget I casually refined. I hope you like it." Busso showed a satisfied smile. He took the warrior's edge, carefully sized it up for a while, and praised, "Good sword. What a good sword. Master Ian, do you know how much this warrior's edge is sold for in the imperial capital?" Yang Feng replied, "I don't know, 2 million gold coins. The Gale's sacred swordsman Demidio used your sword to defeat the Gale's sacred swordsman Favela. In the most critical battle between the two sacred swordsmen, the Gale's sacred swordsman Favela's sword was cut off by the Gale's sacred swordsman Demidio's warrior's edge, resulting in his defeat. In fact, it is generally acknowledged that the Gale's sacred swordsman Favela should be half a notch stronger than the Gale's sacred swordsman Demidio. After his defeat, the Gale's sacred swordsman Favela spent a lot of money to purchase a god weapon like the warrior's edge. I heard that as long as you offered him a warrior's edge, he would accept you as a personal disciple and teach you swordsmanship." Busso looked fondly at the warrior's edge and said with a smile, "For a sacred swordsman, a good sword was their second life. Many swords could not withstand the chi of a sacred swordsman rank powerhouse. Only magic swords fused with precious magic metals such as divine blood steel and mithril could bear the chi of a sacred swordsman rank powerhouse. A sacred swordsman could casually kill a star knight using a warrior's edge with an ordinary sword. However, in a life and death battle between two sacred swordsmen, one using an ordinary sword and the other using a god weapon like the warrior's edge, the one to die would definitely be the sacred swordsman using the ordinary sword." Yang Feng said with a smile, "In this case, with this sword, Governor Busso, you can also become a personal disciple of the Gale's sacred swordsman Favela." Busso replied with a smile, "I'm well aware that I'm not cut out to practice martial arts. Besides, after practicing cultivation to the sacred swordsman realm, I'm not a martial artist. I have to obey the orders of the court. The status of sacred swordsman of the empire is equal to that of us governors. In terms of power and status, they may not be a match for us. Besides, martial arts cannot be passed down to the next generation. However, the fiefs and territories of aristocrats can be passed down from generation to generation. Being an aristocrat is much more cost-effective than being a martial artist. Martial artists are nothing more than the lackeys of the nobles. Yang Feng was taken aback, and couldn't help but have a whole new level of respect for Busso. He had always looked down on Busso, who fled at the mere sight of him. Now that he got to know him carefully, he realized that Busso wasn't a pure waste. Yang Feng obtained a lot of first-hand information about the Morince Empire from Artai's side. In the Morince Empire, there were dozens of human sacred swordsmen. Many human sacred swordsmen served the empire, or became enshrined by greater aristocrats. There were very few sacred swordsmen who had a transcendent status. The ultimate goal of the human sacred swordsman who served the empire was to become an aristocrat, preferably a hereditary peer greater aristocrat with a fief. Since Busso was already a greater aristocrat, he naturally wouldn't abandon his current foundation to learn martial arts. Busso hesitated for a while before saying, "Master Ian, you are now an aristocrat of the empire. I have brought you the appointment document. However, you have to prepare to go to the imperial capital to have an audience with His Majesty in the near future. This is a necessary procedure. Any hereditary peer aristocrat baron and above must go to the imperial capital to have an audience with His Majesty within 2 months from the date of being conferred the title. Otherwise, your appointment will lose its legitimacy." Yang Feng's eyes narrowed slightly, to the imperial capital. The Morince Empire was one of the 2 human empires of the Feisua Plain. In the imperial capital of the Morince Empire, experts were as common as clouds, and there were more than 30 sacred swordsmen. The legendary sorcerers and the legendary priests of the major temples were all gathered there. Yang Feng had just promoted to a level 3 warlock. In a place like the Red Earth Wasteland, which was far away from the Emperor, his strength was enough to dominate. Once he went to the St. Toulon city, he would only be regarded as a first-rate expert. In a divine city like this St. Toulon city, even Starry Sky Warlock and Moonlight Warlock rank powerhouses would be suppressed and killed by the gods if they behaved atrociously there. Busso said with a smile, "Master Ian, you don't have to worry. This is just a necessary measure for His Majesty to meet you. It's not to lure you to the imperial capital and then ambush you. The news that you were conferred the title of an earl has spread throughout the aristocratic class, and your appointment as an aristocrat has already been approved by the aristocratic senate. If His Majesty set up an ambush to kill you, it would only chill the hearts of the aristocratic class. With all due respect, you don't have the qualifications to make His Majesty do this." Yang Feng thought carefully for a while, then revealed a smile and said, "In that case, I'll make some preparations to go to the imperial capital to have an audience with His Majesty." The people that the Morince Empire had to destroy its credibility to lure and kill were basically demigod rank or even god rank powerhouses. In front of the behemoth known as the Morince Empire, a great wizard like Yang Feng was just a nobody. He wasn't worthy of the Morince Empire doing this. Busso said with a smile, "I'll go back with you. It just so happens that I also have to go back to have an audience with His Majesty." Yang Feng agreed. All right. 3 days later, a convoy escorted by 100 cavalrymen left the Miracle City and headed for the Malinsan province. 15 days later, the convoy appeared in the Baroman city. Before long, a huge convoy escorted by more than 1,000 cavalrymen slowly headed for the St. Toulon city. Along the way, Yang Feng experienced the prestige of the Orthics family. Wherever Governor Busso passed, numerous officials welcomed him warmly and scrambled to offer him local specialties, gold, silver, and jewelry. Yang Feng, the newly promoted Earl of the Morince Empire, also received a warm reception. Numerous officials sent all kinds of beautiful women to Yang Feng and Governor Busso. Yang Feng didn't refuse anyone along the way. Together with Busso, he accepted all the gold, silver, jewelry, and beautiful women. In any case, he could settle those beautiful women in the Miracle City, so he had no worries. Along the way, while tasting the delicacies of various places and experiencing the customs of the Morince Empire, Yang Feng leisurely headed for the St. Toulon city. Chapter 252. In a carriage brimming with fragrance, Yang Feng was carefully studying a book on level 3 extraordinary plants. This was a book he got from the demonic fighting sect, which recorded the knowledge of many kinds of level 3 extraordinary plants. Many third-order transcendent plants came from different planes, and each of them had a miraculous power. The offensive power of level 3 extraordinary plants couldn't surpass that of great warlocks. However, many of the level 3 extraordinary plants had special abilities that even great warlocks couldn't achieve. Yang Feng's heart suddenly stirred slightly. He closed the book in his hand, flipped his hand, and put it into a storage ring. Andrew's voice came from outside the carriage, "Sir, there's a fight ahead." After Andrew made a great contribution, Yang Feng promoted him to the vice-captain of his personal guard. Yang Feng had to carefully observe this young man. If he was of great use, then he would do his best to groom him. On this trip to the St. Toulon city, Andrew, as the vice-captain of his personal guard, commanded the 100 knights as Yang Feng's guards. "I see." The carriage stopped, and Yang Feng alighted and looked into the distance. A peerless beauty, Faldina, wearing a silver dress, with dazzling blonde hair, a tall figure, skin as white as jade, exquisite facial features, and a pair of beautiful eyes that seemed to be able to speak, as if she had walked out of a painting, was panting heavily as she frantically fled in this direction. A dozen men with knight-rank cultivation bases dressed in black, armed with pitchforks, lasso sticks, fishing nets, ropes, and other capture weapons chased after her. "So it's an acquaintance." Yang Feng glanced at Faldina and saw at a glance that she seemed to have been poisoned, and her magic power was almost sealed. This was why she was being chased by the dozen knight-rank men. If Faldina still had her cultivation base, she would have been able to kill the dozen knight-rank men with a single hand. Busso alighted from the carriage. When he saw Faldina, his eyes lit up, and he said with an excited smile, "What a beautiful girl. How about we grab her and enjoy her?" Yang Feng was speechless. Busso beside him was clearly not a good person. As soon as he saw a beauty, his first reaction was to grab her. Busso's expression suddenly changed, and he said in a deep voice, "No, this is Faldina, the personal disciple of the legendary wizard Alvita of the Titan Empire. Master Ian, she was a forbidden descendant of His Majesty the Emperor. You can't kidnap her." Although Busso was a bit lecherous, he also knew that there were some women he could touch and some women he absolutely could not. Yang Feng nodded slightly, then turned and walked towards his carriage. "Let's go." Although Faldina was a beautiful woman, but she and Edith ambushed Yang Feng. Yang Feng didn't have a favorable impression of Faldina, a stunning beauty from the Titan Empire. He had no interest in her life or death. Busso heaved a sigh of relief. He was afraid that Yang Feng would take Faldina for himself. At that time, he would be in a dilemma. Few people in the entire Morince Empire could withstand the wrath of Morince 2867th, "Master Ian, save me. Save me. As long as you save me, I'll tell you the location of a god armament." Faldina's mournful pleading voice came from behind Yang Feng. God armament. Yang Feng's heart palpitated with eagerness when he heard that. The so-called god armament was a mystical treasure forged by the gods of the Feisua plane and contained a certain law power. Every god armament had a strange and formidable power. If converted to the secret treasure grades of the Zhangji plane, then every god armament would be a level 6 secret treasure at the very least. At present, Yang Feng didn't even have a level 6 secret treasure. There were a few level 6 secret treasures in the Tyrannid subcontinent, but they were all secret treasures used to enhance people's soul aptitude or warlock rank strength. There was no level 6 secret treasure that could be used for combat. A god armament. If Yang Feng could get a god armament on the Feisua plane, then his trip to the Feisua plane would be a huge gain. Even in the main continent's Great Cloud Dynasty, a divine artifact was absolutely a rare treasure. It was a secret treasure that could only be made by alchemists who were rated as divine craftsmen. Every divine craftsman rank alchemist was a terrifying existence above the Moonlight Warlock rank. Each of them had a distinguished status and formidable strength. In the Great Cloud Imperial Court, even Moonlight Warlock rank experts might not have a god armament. "Go save her." Yang Feng turned around and ordered Andro faintly. Yes. Sir. Andro turned around, drew his sword, pointed at the dozen-plus men in black, and barked, "Charge!" The 50 knights instantly burst forth with powerful combat aura and followed behind Andro as they charged at the dozen black-clothed men. The dozen black-clothed men were also shocked. Chi erupted from their bodies, and they hastily resisted the attack. Under the charge of the 50 knights, the dozen-plus men in black only resisted for a while before they were killed. Andro escorted Faldina to in front of Yang Feng. With a wave of Yang Feng's hand, a vial of liquid metal nano-robot elixir flew out, pierced Faldina's delicate arm, and injected the elixir into her. Faldina's pretty face flushed slightly, and a mysterious force erupted from her in a flash, killing the liquid metal nano-robots in a flash. Yang Feng's complexion flickered. The liquid metal nano-robot elixir could even be easily controlled by great warlock rank experts. Faldina was just an archwizard, and her physical constitution couldn't even compare to that of many level 3 warlocks, yet she was able to kill all the liquid metal nano-robots. This was simply heaven-defying. Faldina smiled sweetly. "I was blessed by the gods when I was born. Mind-enslaving spells, control-type spells, control-type poisons, and control-type magic medicines are completely ineffective against me." Yang Feng said lightly, "Are you mocking me? I'm a wizard proficient in pharmacology. I think that the miraculous pharmacology should be able to make a beautiful lady give me the information I want. If pharmacology isn't enough to make you talk, then the knight Andro next to me is an interrogation expert. He should be able to make you tell me the information I want to know." Andro took a step forward very cooperatively, looked up and down Faldina's private parts, and let out a creepy, lascivious laugh. Faldina's pretty face changed, and she took 2 steps back. Looking pitiful, tears streamed down her cheeks, and she said, "You bullied me. You bullied a weak woman like me. Are you still a man?" When Faldina cried, it was truly heartbreaking and destabilizing. Chapter 253. Yang Feng frowned slightly, then lifted the curtain of the carriage and looked outside. He saw a fat middle-aged woman dressed in rags fall in front of an aristocrat's luxurious carriage with a young girl in her arms. A young man dressed in luxurious aristocratic attire, escorted by 6 guards, came up to the middle-aged woman and swore, "I'm sorry, Lord Aristocrat. We were jostled by the crowd. We'll go now. We're very sorry for offending you." The fat middle-aged woman embraced her daughter and apologized in a low voice. After scolding, the young aristocrat felt very comfortable. He was about to wave his hand to have the 2 people leave, when suddenly, his eyes lit up, and he stared at the middle-aged woman's daughter, unable to shift his gaze away. Although the middle-aged woman's daughter's face was covered in a faint layer of dust, but if you looked carefully, you would find that her eyes were bright and spirited, her facial features were delicate and attractive, and her skin was as smooth as jade. She was very beautiful. The young aristocrat's eyes lit up, and he said with an unbridled smile, "What a beautiful girl. It seems that my luck is pretty good today. Take her away. Take it as a punishment for these 2 lowly commoners offending me." 2 guards immediately stepped forward and forcefully pulled the young girl away from the middle-aged woman's embrace. They then kicked the middle-aged woman, causing her to fall to the ground. The young and beautiful girl let out a mournful cry, "Mother! Save me! Mama!" Some commoners who still had a conscience couldn't help but turn their heads, unwilling to see this scene. When the warriors of the St. Toulon city standing a dozen meters away saw the family crest on the young aristocrat's luxurious carriage, they fell silent. "Stop!" At this moment, a stern shout came from the side. Gazes focused on the place where the voice came from. The young aristocrat turned his head and saw Yang Feng alight the carriage. "What a beautiful little girl!" Busso also alighted from the carriage. As soon as he saw the beautiful and charming girl, his eyes bloomed with excitement. The young aristocrat turned around and asked coldly, "Who are you?" Andro took a step forward and shouted, "How dare you! The distinguished sir in front of you is Sir Earl Ian, the hereditary Earl of the Red Earth Wasteland conferred by His Majesty the Great Emperor." Sir Earl. That's a hereditary earl. When the people near the city gate heard Andros' voice, they immediately revealed a trace of reverence in their eyes. These people mingled in the St. Toulon city and were much more knowledgeable than people from small places. The power of a hereditary count was more than 100 times greater than that of a court count. A hereditary earl, even in the imperial capital, was an extraordinary person. The arrogant young noble immediately changed his demeanor. He became courteous and said, "So it's Count Ian of the Red Lands. I'm Angelo, the third-in-line heir of the Andino family. What can I do for you?" Yang Feng said lightly, "I've taken a fancy to this woman." Angelo's expression changed slightly, and he hesitated. Busso also came over and said arrogantly, "Angelo, since the Count of the Red Earth Wasteland has taken a fancy to this lowly person, just let him have this lowly commoner. Otherwise, I'll have a talk with your father, Andino." When Angelo saw Busso, his pupils constricted slightly. He revealed a graceful smile and handed 2 invitations to Yang Feng and Busso. "Since you like her, Earl Ian, then you can have these 2 lowly people. Earl Ian, Governor Busso, it's my father's birthday in a few days. Please do me the honor and come for a chat." Yang Feng and Busso took the invitations. "Then I'll take my leave first." Angelo smiled, turned around, and boarded his carriage. After boarding the carriage, his face darkened and was shrouded in a layer of haze. Inside the gate of the St. Toulon city, even if non-believers entered, they would be discovered in an instant, and then burned to death at the stake. On the Faisua plain, non-believers were unwelcome and regarded as heretics in any country of the human world. They were like stray dogs, unable to be active in the central area of human power. Yang Feng's spirit was taut, his gaze fixed on Alarina, and he was ready to fight. Alarina had a naive look on her face as if she hadn't sensed anything. She allowed the divine light to shine on her body, but it didn't trigger any reaction. Yang Feng's eyebrows creased slightly, and his eyes flashed with a glint of doubt. Did I guess wrong? Was I really lucky to meet such a beautiful girl? A girl of Alarina's level could already be called an absolute beauty. On the Faisua plain, once such a beautiful girl was discovered by an aristocrat in a territory, she would either be pocketed by the aristocrat, offered as a gift to a greater aristocrat, or sold to a slave merchant for a big profit. After entering the St. Toulon city, Yang Feng silently recited an incantation and pointed at Alarina, and a single target evil detection spell fell on Alarina. Strands of pure white light radiated from Alarina's body, showing that this young lady was a pure person who had never betrayed her conscience and killed any intelligent beings. Yang Feng smiled self-deprecatingly. "It seems that I was being paranoid." Shortly after entering the city gate, a handsome young aristocrat with short blonde hair, surrounded by a dozen guards, blocked in front of Yang Feng and company. The young aristocrat blocked in front of Yang Feng and company and said with an arrogant expression, "Ian, Busso, get out here." Yang Feng frowned slightly and slowly alighted from his carriage. Busso also alighted from his carriage. When he saw the young aristocrat, his complexion couldn't help but change. Yang Feng asked, "Who is this guy?" Busso immediately whispered to Yang Feng, "He is Bel, the eldest son of His Highness the Great Prince Andrew." Bel smiled coldly and ordered, "Sure enough, Busso, you colluded with the fiend Ian to harm the interests of the Empire. Men, capture the fiend Ian." "Yes, Your Highness." The dozen knight-rank guards laughed fiendishly, burst out with tyrannical chi, and rushed at Yang Feng. "You're courting death. Don't interfere." Yang Feng's eyes flashed with killing intent. With a flick of his wrist, a king's sword forged from divine blood steel suddenly appeared in his hand. He took a step forward, erupted with firmament knight-rank chi in a flash, and sword rays shone like stars. A mist of blood burst out beside Yang Feng and splashed in all directions. Chapter 254. When he saw this, Busso's heart trembled, and his eyes shimmered with fear. What a scary guy. That's the fiend Ian for you. Ever since Busso and Yang Feng reached a settlement, the relationship between the two parties quickly became closer. Busso's fear of Yang Feng slowly faded. Now that he saw the blood mist and pieces of corpses exploding around Yang Feng, fear welled up inside him, and he finally understood the terrifying meaning of the name Fiendian. Andros' eyes flashed with fanaticism and excitement. This is our Lord, perfect, powerful, callous, and benevolent, how wonderful. There was a flash of excitement in the eyes of the warriors who followed Yang Feng on expeditions. To them, only such a powerful monarch was worthy of following. As if a god of death walking in the secular world, Yang Feng walked up to in front of Bell, looked coldly at Bell, and unleashed the divine energy of fear in a flash. As if on the verge of life and death, as if one wrong word, one would be burned at the stake, a great fear enveloped Bell. Bell's face was pale, his eyes filled with fear, his body trembled, his mouth was dry, and he didn't dare to move his eyes away from Yang Feng. Your Highness, these rebels tried to assassinate you. I'll help you kill them all. Yang Feng looked at Bell with an aloof tone and barked, Your Highness, are you satisfied? Face pale, Bell took 3 steps back and said tremblingly, Satisfied. 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 Overbearing, divine energy of fear permeated his body. Yang Feng took a step forward and said threateningly, I killed these people, are you satisfied? Yes. Still not satisfied. Bell said tremblingly, Well done. Well done. Yang Feng smiled contemptuously and waved his hand, saying, Okay, you can go now. Yes. Yes. With a look of fear on his face, Bell mounted his horse and frantically fled into the distance. Busso said with a look of worship, Ian, you're really amazing. Bell was an idiot who didn't even understand the rules of the aristocratic game. It was really difficult to deal with him. You scared him away with just one sentence. You're really amazing. Ordinary princes still basically followed the rules of the game, and at least on the surface, they were very respectful to the greater nobles. As for Bell, he directly shed all pretense of cordiality with Yang Feng, which in the eyes of aristocrats was the most foolish behavior. However, Bell was of noble status. Busso did not have a good way to deal with him in a short time. Sirens came from afar, and the police of the St. Toulon city's imperial garrison hall were finally dispatched. Dozens of police who had been lurking nearby quickly rushed over. As soon as the policemen arrived at the scene, they saw more than a dozen corpses on the ground. Many of the policemen turned pale and their bodies trembled. An inspector hesitated for a moment, then took more than a dozen policemen to block in front of Yang Feng and his party, before saying with a gloomy expression, I am the garrison hall's level 1 Inspector Bessio, I suspect that you are related to this vicious murder case. Please come with me to the police station. Busso smiled coldly, then pulled out a whip and mercilessly lashed it at Bessio's face, leaving a deep whip mark. Busso hugged his face in pain, curled up, and howled in pain. Busso said condescendingly and contemptuously, I am the governor of the Malinsan province, a baron of the Busso Empire. This is the Earl of the Red Earth Wasteland, Earl Ian. We just killed these assassins who tried to assassinate His Highness Bell. This is justice, this is self-defense, understand? You lowlifes. The policemen suddenly turned pale and trembled, realizing that they might have been involved in a struggle between bigwigs. The struggle between bigwigs of the Morance Empire was extremely cruel, so it was normal for the aftermath to kill some nobodies. Busso barked arrogantly, everyone here is our witness. If you want to arrest us, wait until you get an order from His Majesty the Emperor or the aristocratic Senate. Get lost. Otherwise, I'll kill you lowlifes. With a brush, the dozens of policemen quickly dispersed, revealing a path for Yang Feng's group to walk on. Yang Feng sighed inside, this is the power of power. If Yang Feng didn't have enough power, then he wouldn't have been a hereditary peer greater aristocrat of the Morance Empire. Even if he was a great wizard, others didn't know that he had promoted to a level 3 warlock, he would have been hunted down and had to flee in a sorry state for killing people in this St. Toulon city. However, with the status of a hereditary peer Earl of the Morance Empire, only His Majesty the Emperor, the aristocratic Senate responsible for aristocratic affairs, and the temples of the churches had the right to adjudicate and try Yang Feng. Only after the garrison hall and other authorities had collected sufficient evidence, submitted it to the three major forces, and obtained approval, would they have the right to arrest Yang Feng. This was the privilege of greater aristocrats. Countless people in the Morin's Empire yearned to become greater aristocrats because of the various privileges greater aristocrats had. Even many sacred swordsmen and legend wizards served bigwigs for the sake of hereditary aristocratic titles and fiefs. In the Morin's Empire, which was an ancient empire with a heritage of more than 100,000 years, it was very difficult to become a hereditary peer aristocrat step by step. Even sacred swordsmen had to serve the empire and make enough contributions before they could become a hereditary peer aristocrat. Otherwise, they could only carry the title of a court aristocrat. If Yang Feng hadn't occupied the remote Red Earth wasteland, developed it into a fertile land, and decisively chosen to annex it, he would have satisfied the emperor's vanity to expand his territory. If he satisfied the vanity of the emperor of the Morin's Empire to expand his territory, it was basically impossible for him to become a hereditary peer aristocrat of the Morin's Empire. The Orthox family had great power in the St. Toulon city. Busso quickly arranged a large, well-equipped villa for Yang Feng and his party to settle in. After Busso arranged everything, he invited Yang Feng with an apologetic expression, "Ian, let's go for a drink. I owe you an explanation for today's matter." Yang Feng replied with a smile, "Okay." Along with a few guards, the two of them left the villa, entered two luxurious carriages, and went inside the St. Toulon city. The carriages stopped in front of a magnificent hotel that covered an extremely large area and looked like a small manor. Yang Feng and Busso alighted the carriage. The Beautiful and Gaiety Hotel is one of the 4 best hotels in the St. Toulon city. It's very distinctive. "Let's go in," Busso said with a mysterious smile. Yang Feng smiled and followed Busso into the Beautiful and Gaiety Hotel. As soon as he entered the Beautiful and Gaiety Hotel, Yang Feng saw elves, foxmen, catmen, dogmen, and other beautiful women of various races dressed gorgeously. It was a dazzling sight. When some relatively pure men saw such a scene for the first time, they didn't even know where to put their eyes. "Welcome to the Beautiful and Gaiety Hotel. Distinguished guests, we will serve you wholeheartedly and give you a wonderful night." When the dozens of beautiful women of various races saw Yang Feng and Busso enter, they humbly prostrated themselves on the ground and spoke in unison, as if they were holy maidens serving gods. Yang Feng asked curiously, "Elves? They dare to use elves here? Isn't the master of this place afraid of being assassinated by the experts of the Elven Empire?" Elven slaves were one of the most precious female slaves on the Feisua plain. The Elven Empire hated people who used elven slaves the most, as it would bring them decades or even centuries of pain. Once someone was found to be using elven slaves, the Elven Empire would send experts to assassinate them. Busso said with a smile, "This is the St. Toulon city, not the Elven Woods. If elven experts dare to come here, they'll just give us a few more playthings." The St. Toulon city was filled with crouching tigers and hidden dragons. Even if Starry Sky Warlock rank experts came here to behave atrociously, they would be suppressed. No matter how angry the experts of the Elven Empire were, they couldn't do anything about it. At this moment, a mature woman with a voluptuous figure, long wavy blue hair, a charming and enchanting appearance, and a touch of fragrance wafted over. She said with a refreshing smile on her face, "Governor Busso, you're here." Busso's eyes flashed with infatuation, and he caressed the hand of the mature woman twice, saying with a smile, "Annie, take us to the heaven-grade private room." Annie smiled sweetly, looked at Yang Feng, and asked curiously, "Okay, who is this?" Busso replied with a smile, "This is the Red Earth Wasteland's Earl Ian. He's a hereditary peer earl, so don't neglect him." A dignified look welled up in Annie's eyes. She smiled sweetly and said with a faint hint of respect, "So it's Earl Ian. Hello, I'm one of the managers of the Beautiful and Gaiety Hotel. If you need anything, you can ask me. The Beautiful and Gaiety Hotel will meet all your needs." Yang Feng replied lightly, "Okay." Under Annie's lead, Yang Feng and his party entered the Beautiful and Gaiety Hotel. Along the way, Yang Feng's horizons were broadened. The beautiful and Gaiety Hotel was filled with beautiful women and had a variety of ways to play. Even he, who came from Earth, couldn't help but widen his horizons. Eventually, under Ain's lead, Yang Feng's group of 2 came to a spacious, secluded, and completely different from the outside world. Busso said with a wretched smile, "How about it? Are you interested? Let's go out and have some fun after dinner." Chapter 255. Yang Feng said with a smile, "Sounds good. However, I don't intend to indulge myself before I achieve my goal." Busso asked curiously, "What's your goal? Can I have a listen?" Yang Feng replied with a smile, "The pursuit of truth and eternal life." Busso couldn't help laughing, and his eyes revealed a trace of disapproval, saying, "The pursuit of truth and eternal life? That's the dream of all wizards." "Right, you're also a wizard. Even gods didn't dare to say that they could live forever." For a trifling great wizard to set such a goal, it was somewhat unrealistic in Busso's view. Busso said apologetically, "I'm sorry, Ian. Bell should be looking for trouble with me. After all, the Orthix family supports His Highness Garca, the 6th Prince of the Empire. Since you came to this St. Toulon city with me, they regarded you as one of His Highness Garca's men." Yang Feng was mentally prepared. The Orthix family worked so hard to help Yang Feng get the precious hereditary peer earl title, making Yang Feng a greater aristocrat of the Morantz Empire. Of course, they also wanted to get something in return. Seeing the expressionless face of Yang Feng, Busso felt uncertain and quickly said, "Ian, the 6th Prince Garca is talented, intelligent, and amiable. If he can ascend to the throne in the future, it will be a great boon for the entire Morantz Empire." Yang Feng said with a faint smile, "I don't care what will happen to the Morantz Empire after he ascends to the throne. I only care about what benefits I can get if he ascends to the throne." At this time, Yang Feng was already a hereditary peer greater aristocrat. Like Busso, he already had the qualifications to participate in the struggle for the highest power in the Morantz Empire. He would become a behind-the-scenes manipulator, unlike the nobodies who were forced to get involved in their plots. As long as you support me to ascend to the throne, I'll confer you the title of Duke and give you the Funès province as your fief." Following a hearty laugh, a handsome young man with short, dazzling blonde hair and dressed in white casual clothes walked into the room with a smile on his face. Behind the young man was a beautiful girl with a golden ponytail. She was dressed in men's clothing, but her breasts were bulging, and she exuded a beautiful and noble aura. It was a young man with an ordinary build, short blue hair, and an ordinary appearance. He exuded a capable and experienced aura of a soldier. A tall, handsome, and arrogant young man with a long sword hanging from his waist appeared. He was about 27 or 28 years of age. Busso hurriedly got up and saluted the young man, "Greetings, Your Highness." Yang Feng also got up, gave the young man an aristocratic salute, and said in a neither servile nor overbearing manner, "Greetings, Your Highness." "All right. Don't stand on ceremony." Garca wore a smile that gave people a good impression at first sight. He walked directly to the main seat and sat down. The girl exuding a noble temperament sat on the left side of Garca. The tall and handsome young man sat down next to the girl. The man with an ordinary appearance sat on the right side of Garca. Garca enthusiastically praised, "Let me introduce you. These two are Governor Busso, the Earl of the Red Earth Wasteland, the Earl of the Red Earth Wasteland, the Earl of the Red Earth Wasteland, who accomplished what countless legendary heroes wanted to do but failed to do. He built a city of miracles in the desolate and silent Red Earth Wasteland." When Yang Feng heard this, he felt a sense of familiarity towards the 6th Prince, who he was most proud of, when he heard this. The tall and handsome young man stared at Yang Feng with deep jealousy in the abyss of his eyes. Garca said with a smile, "Earl Ian, this is my sister Elena, this is my good brother Goina, and this is Jiran, the chief disciple of the lightning sacred swordsman." Jiran, who is less than 30 years old, has cultivated his lightning chi to the Star Knight rank. He is the most promising young martial arts genius in the St. Toulon city to promote to a sacred swordsman. Jiran, who was sitting next to Elena, showed a proud smile at once. To be able to cultivate to the Star Knight rank before 30 years old, this cultivation speed was extremely astonishing even in the Morinth Empire. Even with the guidance of a famous teacher, his cultivation speed was so fast, which proved how formidable Jiran's talent in the way of the sword was. Garka said directly, "Earl Ian, as long as you support me. In the future, after I ascend the throne, I will definitely confer you the title of Duke and give you the Funès province as your fief." The Funès province, which bordered the Red Earth wasteland, was a sparsely populated, resource-poor province of the Morinth Empire, and was covered in ice and snow all year round. Although the area of the Funès province was 2 to 3 times that of other ordinary provinces, but its population was less than 1/20th of that of other provinces. It was the most barren province of the Morinth Empire. This was why Garka was so generous as to confer the Funès province to Yang Feng. Yang Feng frowned slightly and swept Elena, Goina, and Jiran with his gaze. Garka roped in Yang Feng's side in front of these 3 people, which made Yang Feng worry. As if seeing through Yang Feng's thoughts, Garka said with a meaningful smile, "Earl Ian, you don't have to worry. Elena is my half-sister. Goina is my good brother since I was a child. Jiran is my good friend. They won't betray me. Besides, my imperial father is well aware of our affairs. As for you, in the eyes of many people, you're already one of my people." The Orthics family was a hardcore supporter of Garka because Garka was the biological son of the South Royal Consort Katerina. If he ascended the throne in the future, the Orthics family would be able to become extremely glorious and gain great power. In fact, Busso was Garka's uncle. The Orthics family protected Yang Feng in the court and made him the Earl of the Red Earth Wasteland. In the eyes of many people, Yang Feng was already a member of the 6th Prince's Party. Once this imprint was made, it was very difficult to remove. Yang Feng pondered for a while, and then said decisively, "I'm willing to serve you, Your Highness." In the Morinth Empire, Yang Feng had already offended Duke Iser and the Great Prince's Party. If he didn't find a backer immediately, it might be difficult for him to even leave the St. Toulon city alive. Garka said with a forthright smile, "Haha, good. Good. From today onwards, we're on the same side." With a hereditary peer greater aristocrat with 20,000 private troops, more than 100,000 slaves, and his own fief joining his side, Garka's odds of ascending the throne increased by 2 to 2 points. Garka clapped his hands, and beautiful human top beauties with their own style walked in from outside, a fragrance wafting from them. Yang Feng's eyes lit up slightly. These beauties with light makeup were extremely outstanding. On Earth, they would be the prettiest girls in schools and classes. Garka coquettishly crooked his finger, and a beautiful woman who looked like a ripe peach came to his side and snuggled into his embrace. Garka said with a somewhat unrestrained smile, "Pick whichever you like. If you want elves, foxes, or catwomen of other races, just say the word and they'll come." Busso laughed and directly picked a tall, big-breasted beauty. Goina picked a beautiful woman who exuded a coquettish and unrestrained aura. Yang Feng smiled and picked a petite, well-endowed blue-haired girl with a pure and pitiful temperament. Elena and Jiran, on the other hand, rejected the women and made them leave one after another. Garka pinched the chest of the beautiful woman in his embrace, smiled slightly, and clapped his hands. "Earl Ian, you came at the right time. I'll let you experience the most wonderful show of the beautiful and Gaiety Hotel." Suddenly, pleasant music, like the tinkling of spring water flowing in the mountains, sounded. A stunning beauty with dazzling blonde hair, shrouded in a layer of beautiful light, full of mystery, charm, appeared in the center of the stage in the private room like a goddess who had descended from the god realm. 36 very beautiful human girls surrounded the stunningly beautiful woman. As if setting off the green leaves of a red flower, they used their beauty to set off the stunningly beautiful woman in the center. The moment the stunningly beautiful woman appeared in the center of the stage accompanied by the melodious music, the room seemed to have become her domain. All eyes were deeply attracted by her. In the private room, she seemed to be the only protagonist. Yang Feng's gaze was also deeply attracted by the stunningly beautiful woman. When the stunningly beautiful woman moved, as if moonlight had fallen on the earth, a beautiful elf who was favored and blessed by the gods performed a beautiful dance to please the gods. The graceful dance was full of endless charm. With every leap and turn, the dancer's beauty and charm were displayed to the fullest. The dance of the 36 beautiful human girls in the center of the stage was also very beautiful and moving. But in front of the stunningly beautiful blonde woman's dance, as if in front of the sun, they were dim. Everyone's gazes were focused on the beautiful sun. They couldn't take their eyes off it, as if even breathing was a great waste. Finally, the stunningly beautiful woman stopped. As if the sun had restrained its radiance, she bowed towards Yang Feng and the others, and then retreated together with the 36 beautiful girls. Who is she? When the stunningly beautiful blonde woman retreated, Yang Feng finally couldn't help but ask. It was the first time that Yang Feng saw such a beautiful and moving dance. He, who had always let nature take its course, couldn't help but be slightly moved, and coveted her. Chapter 256. Garka smiled heartily and closed the distance between him and Yang Feng without leaving a trace. Ha, Ian, sure enough, you asked who she is. At that time, after watching her dance, my first words were exactly the same as yours. Garka smiled and said, if it was another woman, Ian, if you liked her, I could give her to you immediately. Unfortunately, not her. Her name is Florence, and she is a divine chosen of the goddess of dance. Apart from the aloof gods, no one in the Morince Empire can force her to do anything against her will. The goddess of dance Frederica was the youngest daughter of the strong divine power rank radiant primary god Prados of the Zalia divine system and the intermediate divine power rank empress of the earth goddess Maria. The radiant primary god Prados and the empress of the earth goddess Maria had a total of 9 daughters. 6 of his daughters had already died in the long battle, leaving only 3 daughters behind. Their 3 daughters were the goddess of joy Dorothy, the goddess of love Mavis, and the goddess of dance Frederica. Among them, the goddess of joy Dorothy and the goddess of dance Frederica were feeble divine power rank gods, while the goddess of love Mavis was a weak divine power rank god. As the goddess of dance, Frederica was known for her beautiful dance moves that could make even the gods fall in love with her. At the same time, she was also known for her weak combat strength. However, no one dared to bully her. That was because the radiant primary god Prados and the empress of the earth goddess Maria doted on their daughter very much. As Frederica's divine chosen, Florence might not have much power in the Morince Empire. However, anyone who dared to touch her would be regarded as blasphemy and would be burned at the stake. Even the emperor of the Morince Empire didn't dare to force Florence to be his plaything. Yang Feng said with some regret, so that's how it is. Before entering the Feisua Plain, Yang Feng had already studied the Feisua Plain. The divine chosen were the existences closest to the gods and most doted on by the gods. From time to time, the gazes of the gods would fall on their chosen. Yang Feng didn't dare to provoke such existences. Garka smiled and clapped his hands, saying, however, although I can't give her to you, but I can still invite her to have a drink with me. A beautiful human race woman standing on the side immediately retreated. Not long after, a stunning beauty wearing a white dress and a golden ponytail walked into the room with a smile. Her skin was as translucent as jade, and her pretty face was slightly flushed. There was a faint fragrance coming from her body, and there were still some water droplets at the tip of her hair that had yet to dry. Yang Feng's eyes lit up slightly. After taking a bath, although Florence wasn't as stunning as she was on the dance floor, but she was still extremely beautiful, with a mix of innocence and sexy charm, extremely enchanting. After Florence entered the room, she swept everyone with her gaze, smiled, and gracefully sat on an empty seat next to Yang Feng, a fragrance wafting from her. A look of disappointment flashed in the eyes of Busso and Jiran. Garka smiled and introduced, Florence, you already know all the friends here. Let me introduce a new friend to you. This is the Red Earth Wasteland's Earl Ian, the legend Earl of the Red Earth Wasteland, who accomplished what countless legend heroes wanted to do, yet failed to do. He built a miracle city in the desolate and silent Red Earth Wasteland. Florence stared at Yang Feng with curiosity in her beautiful eyes, and revealed a sweet smile. "You are the Red Earth Wasteland's Earl Ian." "Hello, I am Florence, an ordinary dancer." "It's a pleasure to meet you." Yang Feng said politely in a very skilled aristocratic manner, "I am Ian, beautiful Miss Florence. It's my honor to meet you." As if a curious baby, Florence asked, "I have been to the Red Earth Wasteland once. The climate there is dry, there is no water, and there is a lack of food. Ian, how did you build a city there?" Yang Feng replied with a faint smile, "Under the guidance of the mighty Weave Goddess, in order to spread the glory of the goddess, the miracle city was united and created a miracle. Only then did we finally build the miracle city." Florence was met with a soft rebuff, and a strange look flashed past her beautiful eyes. There had never been a man who dared to speak to her like this after witnessing her beautiful dance. In the past, as long as she slightly opened her mouth to ask, those men would automatically boast about their achievements and tell her everything, displaying their greatness. Garka interrupted with a smile, "Florence, you don't have to ask any more questions. Everyone has their own secrets, don't you?" Florence revealed an angry expression, looking very lovable. "If you don't want to ask, then don't ask. Anyway, I don't really want to know." Yulina suddenly asked with a smile, "Ian, I heard that you are an alchemist and have refined the magic sword Warrior's Edge. Do you still have the Warrior's Edge?" If someone else asked me, I would definitely say no. But since the beautiful Miss Yulina asked me, then even if I don't have it, I still have it. Yang Feng smiled and flipped his hand, and a Warrior's Edge magic sword suddenly appeared in his hand. Bright magic radiance revolved around the Warrior's Edge, making it look full of mystery and power. When Jiran saw the Warrior's Edge, his eyes suddenly lit up, and he could hardly move his eyes away, as if he had seen a peerless beauty. Yang Feng smiled and handed the Warrior's Edge to Yulina. Yulina looked at the Warrior's Edge, her beautiful eyes flashed with a peculiar glint, and she drew a dagger and slashed at the Warrior's Edge. Ding! Along with a crisp sound, the dagger made of fine steel broke into 2 pieces. "So this is the Warrior's Edge, it's really a good sword." Yulina toyed with the Warrior's Edge fondly. Her beautiful eyes flickered with a peculiar glint, and she said unhurriedly, "The Gale's sacred swordsman Demidio defeated the Gale's sacred swordsman Favela by relying on the Warrior's Edge. Master Ian, the Warrior's Edge you refined is now a treasure sword that countless martial artists in the St. Toulon city desire the most." Yang Feng said with a smile, "Princess Yulina, since you like it, then I'll give it to you." The most precious part of the Warrior's Edge series of magic swords was the divine blood steel mixed into the sword. Yang Feng had a lot of divine blood steel. If it wasn't for the fear of arousing suspicion and lowering the price, everyone in the Miracle City would have a Warrior's Edge. "Give it to me." Yulina stared at Yang Feng with her beautiful eyes, and then suddenly said with a smile, "Ian, this Warrior's Edge is hard to come by in the St. Toulon city, and its price has already exceeded 3 million gold coins. Are you really willing to give it to me?" Yang Feng said carelessly, "As long as you like it, Yulina, then this sword is yours." Holding the Warrior's Edge, Yulina fondled it fondly and fell into hesitation. On the Feisua plain, 3 million gold coins was a huge fortune. If used to buy slaves, you could even buy 300,000 slaves. Yulina hesitated again and finally shook her head and returned the Warrior's Edge to Yang Feng. "It's too valuable, I can't accept it." Yang Feng was slightly surprised, but he also smiled and took back the Warrior's Edge. Jiran suddenly said, "Master Ian, I heard that you practice magic and martial duel cultivation. You're not only a great wizard, but also a Firmament Knight rank swordsman. Why don't we compare notes on swordsmanship here? Of course, I'll suppress my chi to the Firmament Knight rank." When he heard Jiran's words, Garka frowned slightly and looked at Jiran, who clenched his fists and had an envious expression on his face. In the room, both Florence and Yulina favored Yang Feng, and Yang Feng was the center of their conversation. This filled Jiran, who had always thought highly of himself, with jealousy. After he heard that Yang Feng was willing to give the Warrior's Edge worth 3 million gold coins to Yulina, Jiran could no longer suppress his jealousy. Alright. I also want to give it a try and see to what extent my strength has reached. Yang Feng looked at Jiran, whose handsome face was slightly distorted due to jealousy, smiled faintly, got up, walked towards an open area outside, and drew an ordinary fine steel sword. When Jiran saw Yang Feng draw an ordinary fine steel sword, he secretly heaved a sigh of relief. The sword in his hand was an excellent fine steel sword, which was several notches stronger than the standard military swords of the Morince Empire. However, it couldn't compare to the warrior's edge magic sword. When he saw Yang Feng exchange it for an ordinary fine steel sword, he heaved a sigh of relief. Damn it, you're not even using the warrior's edge, are you looking down on me? I'll let you know the price of looking down on me. Jiran had just heaved a sigh of relief, when anger welled up inside him. Staring at Yang Feng with anger in his eyes, he unsheathed the sword at his waist and walked up to Yang Feng. Jiran suddenly added, "We're just exchanging pointers in swordsmanship. Master Ian, don't use magic at a critical time." The abyss of Yelina's and Florence's beautiful eyes suddenly flashed with contempt. Mages were extremely weak in close combat. For a star knight like Jiran to fight a wizard in close combat was already somewhat unfair, yet he still didn't let Yang Feng use magic, which was somewhat shameless. Garca frowned slightly and took a deep look at Jiran. Yang Feng's eyes flashed with a scorching fighting spirit, and he said with a light smile, "No problem. I won't use magic. In other words, you alone can't force me to use magic." You're tuning into the Passion Pages YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support, and don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.